Good evening and welcome to the City Council Conference meeting of Tuesday, August 27, 2024. Two items on the agenda. The first of these is continued discussion regarding the resolution R2425-34, postponed the City Council's last meeting of August 13, 2024, related to the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority's Access Program. You have a copy of that. Brenda just gave out a copy of that resolution that we're talking about.
That is as it appears in tonight's agenda.
Right. Anybody have anything to discuss about that?
Staff's here to answer any questions if we can.
Okay.
I would mainly like to hear from Councilmember Nash as far as have you talked to PIKE OTA, Amos Road, Bob Norman? Are they in agreement with this? And what do you feel? Because a lot of this is from your input. So.
Well, this resolution still contains a lot of the language from the OTA and their partnership language, even if the words partnership have been struck out. And so it's the consensus that anything that's been in any way tainted by the OTA, that there's no reason that we should entertain it.
So you're still against this? And you feel like PIKE OTA is still against this?
Yes, and I don't know if this is the appropriate time to bring up a motion that I plan, just as a...
Do we need to do that out there?
Well, I mean, I'm not going to be motioning now,
okay.
but just giving a heads up.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I plan on making a motion to amend this to replace with the original resolution that I wrote about a month ago before the fun activities of the last 3-4 weeks. And so that's pretty much where we're at, is that it's still unacceptable to have the OTA's language snuck in there and just kind of injected into what should be a resolution to protect our interests. And then on principle, we shouldn't be standing behind anybody else's words but our own. But this one's
Refresh.
Only red one for me.
yeah, so I get to work on my public reading. Read this.
So these two are together? No.
They're two separate.
Are they this one too?
No, this is the one that's on tonight's agenda.
Okay.
This is the one that Councilmember Nash is going to bring up as a motion in the meeting. I guess my question is, I know you're saying that some of the language in here isn't exactly what you want. This resolution is at least the combined efforts of council and staff and everybody else, and it was after many hours. It's pretty much was the consensus that I understood that we had that we were going to work with. My personal opinion is this is kind of regressing back to where we started several weeks ago, whatever number of weeks that was. Of course, you have the right to be able to put anything on the up for a motion, as long as you got a second, and we can vote on it. Other comments from council? Yes.
So, working through the process, you get a second, then it becomes a public open comment period on this resolution. You go through those, then you get some comment and then vote. Okay.
I do have a question about Should be two motions to amend, one for the title separately, or?
Are you asking me? And since it's not an ordinance, you can do it all at once. If you don't,
Okay.
we haven't adopted anything by title.
Okay. Thank you.
I have one more.
Yes, sir.
Rick, for number 2, whereas the city of Norman does not welcome or endorse the intrusion of the turnpike built by the OTA into our community. What's that do for us?
It's just an expression of your opinion.
I mean, the whole thing's our opinion.
Right, it's a resolution, it's an expression of this council's opinion with regard to the proposed.
Anything more on that question? Item number 2.
Yeah, just the main difference is trying to compare these two. From a legal standpoint, what I think might be your opinion is different about these two resolutions. One main point that I see in the proposed one that's on the agenda is the the request from OTA for us to participate in the development of East West Connector and South Extension Turnpike projects, thereafter to maintain those projects as city streets after. So I know there's some other differences, but is there anything in your opinion legally that stands out as being a difference?
Well, our understanding of the purpose of the resolution to begin with is to give the Turnpike Authority an indication of some of what the city would like to see constructed during that process. If you don't have a resolution that has those items in there, my understanding is OTA is not going to construct them, at least construct them. So this is just an opportunity for council to give the OTA council's opinion as to some of the amenities that they would like to see constructed in conjunction with the turnpike. And if you don't have that in there, you're not going to consider it. We talked about a lot about the reasoning behind that issue, and for me, it just comes down to the issue of if there are public improvements that are constructed that the city is going to be responsible for, they want to know that they want to see some sort of a commitment on the front end, because they don't want to go through the process of obtaining right of way, constructing those improvements, and at some point in the future, have to say, we're not going to accept those.
Do we run the risk of them taking more because we ask for this?
In terms of right-of-way,
Yes.
we do not believe there's additional, and I'll go back to Mr. Sturts, who understands those right-of-way dimensions.
Like if we're asking for another frontage road on the other side, if we're asking for interchanges at certain spots, does that mean they need to take more?
I think they start off in their generic footprint with all the assumptions as to the biggest need that would include all of those potential requests. So these infrastructure elements would not require them to go reassess and expand their right-of-way strategy going forward.
But anything that we put in writing that we request, we are committing to the take over and maintain.
Yeah, it would be realistic to think that the OTA would not attempt to maintain wetlands into perpetuity or multimodal pathways, and typically the frontage roads do wind up becoming roadways to be maintained by the public entity in which they're developed, and we've seen those examples all over the world to date.
Okay. Okay. That's all I have for now. Thanks.
Let's say, for example, we don't want to take over the responsibility for maintaining the access point at I-44, or the one at 120th Avenue Northeast, and we don't think that was even necessary, or half of the access points that they told us to ask them for. aren't necessary? If we told them no, would they not build them?
That's undetermined at this point, but I don't think they're going to expect us to maintain the interchange.
So we
They
don't
expect
know.
us to change the road that went underneath at those locations, but not the actual turnpike interchange. And the way that I've seen it drawn so far, it's going to be slip roads, not like a big clover leaf like what we see in other locations in town. Primarily, it's the other minis, the frontage roads, if we want the 10-foot path, saying that we will maintain those in the future.
Did you say the plans that you have seen?
On Access Oklahoma, if you want
Okay.
to try to trap me, that's okay, but it's just on Access Oklahoma is all I've seen.
Just wondering. So if we ask them not to build these, they'll build them anyways. So why does this feel like a trap?
Why does it feel like a trap? Doesn't feel like a trap to me.
Usually when somebody asks you to do something, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. You think, oh, that's harmless. Comes back around to haunt you. And I think that's where a lot of concern is with adopting somebody else's words, especially when that somebody else is the Turnpike Authority.
Anything else? All right. Item 2. Discussion regarding the resolution imposing a temporary moratorium on the issuance of permits for large projects until July 1st, 2025, or until the enactment of a new ordinance placing additional requirements on such projects, whichever occurs sooner. We've got new men. Councilmember Nash, this was your resolution, is that correct?
That is correct.
Would you please explain it to us?
Absolutely. So this Turnpike project, this is a development project that's beyond any scale or scope of projects that we've seen before. And as such, we simply don't have the rules, the ordinances, permitting process on the books to handle this kind of project. If anybody's asked, like, why didn't we ask for this for any other projects, we've literally never seen a project of this size before until now. And so, part of the challenge here is ensuring, and I've explicitly always directed, this is explicitly not to be used as a weapon for regular, just ordinary development. It should never be triggered for anything that's below a large project like the Turnpike. And to that end, I've got a list of the criteria and a heads up on this one. There are going to be 2 amendments to these criteria. The first is the requirement to meet 2 of the following criteria. I'm going to increase that to 3. And then on bullet point A, from 161 to 640 acres. But what this resolution is going to be doing is directing Darrell Pyle, city manager, to put a temporary moratorium on the issuance of building permits for projects that meet these criteria, this newly defined large project criteria. And that's to hold us over until either July 1st or an upcoming ordinance that fully specifies additional layers of studies and just investigative processes to make sure that this project isn't going to cause our floodplains or stormwater any kind of harm. And so, you read through these criteria, and they're not perfect. They're thrown together relatively quickly. I've spoken with Richard McCowan, going over these, asking him for his input on what's the largest projects he's ever had, because and the final ordinance, I envision having developers together to make sure that we're all in the same room and can verify that the set of criteria that we're putting together would have never triggered for any of their past projects or any projects that they can envision in the future, because this isn't intended for normal, regular development. And it's not intended to be able in any way to be weaponized against the arena, which is another fear of mine. And I believe that area is about 80 acres, so it's definitely going to be far below even meeting one of these criteria. But we need to have some additional oversight on these large projects that have the potential to completely, fundamentally change the way that our city operates and can sustain itself. Displacing this amount of earth, constructing this this much, say, infrastructure in our watershed. The requirements that I intend to, and the studies that I intend to put in the ordinance will be based heavily on the NEPA studies, NEPA requirements, converted to a municipal level. We can't just tell anybody to do a NEPA study. It's a federal study. And likewise, we can't tell somebody to do a NEPA study and then tell the federal government to have their experts review it. But what we can do is we can create a set of ordinances that in effect duplicates the requirements of the NEPA study, but then instead of, like I say, an outside expert that reviews it, we have an ad hoc committee, much like the statutory TIF committee, that'll review it, that'll hold a public hearing, and at the end of it, issue the record of decision, which would then be required for the building permit. But to get the breathing room to put that together, because it's not going to be able to be thrown together overnight, it might take 2 or 3 nights. We've got this to hold us over.
And that hits the date of July 1st, 25.
Yep. So whichever happens sooner, we get the ordinance put together, hammered out. We have community, just informal community involvement to make sure that we're not accidentally going to put together something that can harm the current business community or development community, and then we'll put it in front of council and see if we can then get it adopted into our ordinances, and that'll then we'll have it clear cut. This is our expectations for these kinds of projects, what kind of studies that we expect you to do, and we want to see that you've taken every single thing into account to ensure that we're not going to have a huge problem on our hands.
Just a couple things. I would really like the roughly 18,000 people that live in Ward 8 to be able to look at this and provide feedback to me before I have to vote on it, first of all. And the second thing, it's until July, and I haven't been able to go through all this, but July 1st, 2025, unless there's a new ordinance placing additional requirements. So if we find that we don't need any of these requirements, we can't take them out, like, is there a way to if we vote on it yes tonight, and then everybody in Ward 8's like, what are you doing? We should take this out, blah, blah, blah. With that language in there that has to be an additional requirements, is there a way to change this, undo it? I don't even really know who I'm asking the question to, if it's the city manager or the attorney.
I think I see what you're saying. I had envisioned the ordinance, its set of requirements taking the place of these requirements, not adding on top of them. Is that what you're?
Yes, sir. Yeah, and maybe I'm reading it wrong, but I guarantee there's attorneys in town that want to read it wrong.
I hadn't even considered that word. That's a good point. Do you have an answer for that?
Yeah, council could take action, potentially at the same time you wished to adopt an ordinance to just spell out plainly that this supersedes the resolution number, whatever the next number in order would be.
Yeah, so I've, had a stance in these meetings for the past month or whatever. We've been talking about the subject that you can't rush good policy. And I think there's a lot of good stuff in here. I think there has some real legs to it, but just like every other piece of policy we talk about in this body, it needs to start in a committee, it needs to start, in the beginning of the process and actually get vetted throughout the way, get buy-in from stakeholder groups, get buy-in from outside groups. Really tease out a lot of the things that, I know you're cognizant of. I appreciate you acknowledging some of the pitfalls potentially. I would like to tease those out in a actual policy process, not here tonight. And so I think it would be my vote to go sit it back to a committee and take a hard look at it that way.
I'm going to echo Councilmember Peacock. I was just looking at how many committees this city has and how many commissions, and there's a commission for everything. I think this is way too broad. I will not support any moratorium that's going to affect everybody. We have some major projects that are looking at us, such as the Weather Museum. That's a hundreds of $1 million project. And a lot of other big companies. We're trying to invite major corporations. We want to make this a town that's going to keep on growing and keep on thriving and keep on prospering. And this right here, this is going to tell anybody who wants to do a major project in this city, we're not even going to listen to you for a year. Completely against it.
Yes. I'm not too concerned with 20 properties being taken by the weather center potentially, but I do think this would be good to have further conversation with the community planning transportation committee, just because it seems like to have the best fit there. I will echo Councilmember Peacock. And having worked on ordinance revisions, those aren't quick. So like once you commit to something and then have to come back to it, it does not go as fast as you might think it would. So yeah, I would like the chance to kind of flesh it out and see what's actionable, and maybe came out like we'd be preempted. That's the other thought that I'm having. If we adopt something and it doesn't go through the process of getting buy-in, what are the ramifications later down the line? Because if I am to support this in the future, I would like to know that we get to keep it and use it. And it's not hamstringing us in the future. That's it.
Councilman Hall?
I do have some more feelings of that. I would like to see it run through CPTC. If that's the appropriate place to do that. So to flesh out some of this stuff before we put it in front for a vote. But Daryl, are there any projects that come to mind that would be impacted by those stipulations?
I'm not sure of the status. The only one that I think on paper really consumes a big portion of the map may be preliminarily platted at Destin's Landing.
That doesn't include in that domain though.
Correct, and I don't think, even development opportunities along Highway 9 on perfect swing frontage, I don't think it's anywhere near that big acreage-wise, so.
It's a square mile. And I was thinking the equine. We've been talking about the equine, whatever you can call it. So, but that won't be 640 acres.
I don't envision us using the domain for that. So
I hope not. That wouldn't be worth it.
it'd be a hard justification.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I definitely agree with the comments that good stuff in here, but I'd like to vet it out more in the committee before we put it on the floor and vote to put it into action.
And
And
Council,
knowing what unintended or whatever may consequences that could come from it.
so depending on council's actions this evening, what staff would do is initiate a conversation with the Water Resources Board, whatever the acronym is for State Water Resources Board, and DEQ as it relates to oversight on the elements that are sought in an ordinance, just to ensure that if we put it in an ordinance and we're not the oversight agency, if they're going to rely on the Water Resources Board or DEQ for that activity, they may not look at our ordinance at all. They just may go right with the state agency for oversight and go forward with us or without us.
I think that's what concerns me most about what's on here is I don't know that we have any enforcement over anything that the state does either way, unless they're partnering with us, and that's not really enforcement. We can dictate all we want, but I don't know that they can just say go away, no matter what, because they have control over what they do. There's nothing wrong with this. The other thing and I know you spoke to it, and you say it won't hurt here, we have water and all this stuff. I just worry 10 councils from now, somebody has that, reads it, and something happens. If it's not well crafted, it could definitely be a quagmire to get it fixed, as Councilmember Grant says, because then we go through all the discussions of it. Did you want to speak to it?
I do support the moratorium, do like it, and everything that is in it, but I also respect the process, and so I'm basically neutral.
Anything else that, yes, sir?
Just curious, want to clarify the proper procedure. If we wanted to postpone this tonight, we just postpone. There's no, you don't have to reject it or anything, we just postpone.
No.
Yeah, since there was no public notice, it's not an ordinance, we don't have, it doesn't have to be to a date specific.
Okay, that's what I'm just making sure.
So this could potentially be on our next study sessions, that way we can start going through the process of really vetting all this.
Possibly it'll be, you're looking at towards the end of September because you're using your 2 study sessions in September for the special meetings for the entertainment center. So I'm trying to remember what we're talking about.
CPTC.
It's a pre-conference.
It's the 4th week, so yeah.
I'll see to see what's on there, and it may be something that can be bumped around for your pre-conferences, like on September the 10th.
So it would be September 26th.
Past that, by the time when I keep on running that, I see my head.
That way we'll have time to embed it and then get it on the agenda for September 10th. Is that what I'm saying?
No. That's not what I said. Next week you have the entertainment district special meeting on the 3rd. And the 10th is the following Tuesday. So we could put it on that conference agenda. Is that what you're saying?
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. I thought you meant on the regular meeting. Yeah, we can stick that on the conference topic.
I still think I'd rather see it start in CPPC.
I would agree.
That would be my wishes too, that we start the committee and come to us to study session in that route.
Discuss both moratorium and ordinance as separate things, but the same thing.
Same discussion.
I would think, and I think CPTC is the person.
Can we consider the September meeting?
Fine.
If the chair's comfortable with us moving some stuff around a little bit, it's
Anything else from council? All right. We have 1/2 an hour. We are adjourned. Thank you all.
That's what you call a full house right there.
I was expecting to see Peggy here.
Zoom out. There we go. All right.
City Council regular meeting of Tuesday, August 27th, 2024. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Ball?
Present.
Councilmember Peacock?
Here.
Councilmember Montoya?
Here.
Councilmember Grant?
Here.
Councilmember Nash?
Here.
Councilmember Kimball?
Here.
Councilmember Coleman?
Here.
Councilmember Dixon?
Here.
Mayor Hightower?
Would you all join me in the pledge of allegiance? Item number 37, a resolution of the City of Norman to protect and preserve the Lake Thunderbird watershed, the Canadian River corridor, the city's drinking water supply, and the city's flood hazard areas, acknowledging the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority's Access Oklahoma program to construct turnpike facilities in the City of Norman through these critical areas in the City of Norman. I'll entertain a motion to adopt, reject, or amend, or postpone the resolution.
Motion to reject.
Motion to
Reject.
reject. Is there a second? Motion on the floor is to reject the resolution. Questions from council? Any comments from council? Hearing none.
Okay, I'm going to call out 2 names at a time so that you know who will follow the next one, and maybe we'll move a little faster. We'll start with Michelle Sinclair, and she will be followed by Ben Plummer. If he is here, if not, it will be Kelly Wilson. How's that? Is that pretty good? Okay. Mayor Hockelade, members of the council, my name is Michelle Sinclair, and I've lived in Ward 5 for 22 years. If you live in town, all of you, you're only minutes away from our beautiful rural community with its agricultural land and green space and trees and livestock and Lake Thunderbird. Lucky you, because that green space is important to the health of everyone, everywhere. And if you partner with the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority, you are giving that resource away. Your partnership with the OTA, no matter how you spin it, will result in the destruction of the land, the demolition of hundreds of homes, and the displacement of thousands of Norman residents who built their family home, their dream home, their retirement home, the home where they can age in place, right here. OTA and the City of Norman partners, you call that leadership? I don't call that 21st century leadership, because that other kind of leadership is old and narrow-minded. Narrow-minded because some government bureaucrats or Chamber of Commerce executives and construction industry lobbyists want tomorrow to look like today. Instead, the citizens of Norman want a vision from you that is big and bold. A vision much friendlier than OTA's demolition plan. And it looks like this. Number 1, protect and preserve Norman's green space. It's no secret that our rural properties with their old growth trees and canopies are cooler than pavement. You will not be the only city officials in the country putting a stake in the ground and saying no to somebody else's ridiculous definition of progress. There's a movement afoot. Instead of demolish and displace, let's protect, preserve, and prioritize the homes and prosperity of our citizens and property of our citizens. The threat of OTA's bulldozer is an enormous stress on these families.
Yes, ma'am.
And it's not too late for you to take a stand and say no now.
Number 3, protect and preserve the agricultural land that is capable of growing fresh food and raising livestock on that land. Locally sourced food is making a comeback, and one day we will be grateful that we kept OTA away from that land. And finally, protect and preserve the wildlife that is out there, like the owl that wakes me up at 4 in the morning, and the red hawk that swoops in low under the trees, and my neighbor's bees that pollinate the flowers, and the doe that gave birth in the yard a few weeks ago.
There it is. Cut her off. Yeah.
Boo! Honor, protect, and preserve that big and bold plan. Nobody. Okay, one more time for Ben Plummer. Kelly Wilson. Pamela Charlton will follow Kelly.
Kelly Wilson, Ward 6. I just wanted to point out there are a few pieces of inaccurate information in this resolution in its current form. Number 5 reads, whereas improvements to Oklahoma's interconnected transportation system of interstates, state highways, and local roads must be coordinated to leverage resources, improve safety, and ensure a seamless operation for the benefit of all Oklahomans. I first take issue with the word coordinated. We do not need a resolution to coordinate. Staff has already been coordinating with the OTA. I also take issue with the verbiage of to leverage resources. This suggests to me that we may be on the hook to fund portions of the project, if not at this point, in the future. And number 6, whereas the OTA announced in December 2021 their 15-year long-range plan, they did not announce their plan until February 22nd of 2022. And then I just also wanted to point out that it's come to my attention that there are some people in the community and members of the staff who feel that that our group is a small group and that we're a small portion of the population in Norman. And I just want you to know that while we may feel small, we're actually very big. And I think you can see that tonight. We have a huge crowd here tonight, and this is just a small portion of the community. That maybe didn't have the means to get here for one reason or another. Maybe they were working, or I mean, a lot of these people live on farms and they might be still, tending to their farm work before they could come tonight, so they couldn't be here tonight. So anyway, I just wanted you guys to know that there are a lot of people impacted, and you have the ability to continue to speak for us and be our voice. And also, I just wanted to point out that in this resolution, it still talks about the south extension, which right now, we don't know that there's going to be a south extension. They think there's going to be a south extension, but there might not be. So why would we want to commit to partnering with them or participating with them on something that may never happen? And I just wanted to point out real fast. Right now, we have this right here. The east-west connector, they say they're going to do that. But by partnering with them and continuing this, you're potentially authorizing this. And I don't want to see that happen, because right now, this is the number of people that we have impacted, but we could be looking at 2, 3, 4 times this many people that are going to be impacted. So I'd like for you to say no partnership with the OTA, not now and not ever. Thank you.
Following Pamela will be Rob Norman.
Thank you, council members and Mayor. My husband and I have been Norman residents here for about 33 years. We've raised our children. And this proposed turnpike is supposed to go right through the middle of the house. And that will be very hurtful to us and disruptive, but not just to us, but to so many. Because there's been 600 plus families that's going to be impacted by this. I've enjoyed the spot that God gave us, and someday I will leave Norman. I'll vacate my home here. And when he calls, I'm going to pass the moon and the Milky Way, and I'm going to be with him, and that's promotion, and I'll welcome it. But when he calls, and not when the OTA calls. We have been told that we are reminded that we must follow the law, and I agree. And I've always done that and always will. But without question, when manipulation and some intimidation, time pressure tactics are used, I don't want to yield to that. This lack of transparency and self-serving attitude does not rule the day. This doesn't just affect me and mine, but so many, like I said, at least 600 other Norman families. And they're more than rooftops. Every one of them are so valued and precious in the Lord's sight. So this injustice has caused such a compassion in my heart. I've attended OU years back. 2 of my sons graduated there. Until then, I never really prayed, not for my city, but now I am. And council, if you don't already, I hope you pray. I hope that we have a great city and he wants to make it a great city. In turn, we're going to be praying for you that you make good decisions. If it isn't good for all citizens, it isn't good at all. If we don't honor Norman families and we don't honor God, sadly, he will not honor us. A 5-level interchange will not make this city great. Miles of paved road will not do it. A road that some sacrifice so much for that once it's built, can't use it until they pay for it. Why? To save a few minutes? I don't understand this. This is not wanted and it's not needed. Please, council members, there's a lot of eyes on this, and I hope this isn't unimportant to you. I hope you're not losing, and I know probably you're not losing your homes, but the snakes in the yard don't pose much of a problem until they're biting your ankles. The opportunity's here, so let's just have compassion for the people and think about this. Go slow, the ball's in your court. We can win this in victory for our beloved city and our future generations. Thank you for
Robbery. Larson will follow Rob.
Rob Norman, Ward 3. I am extremely glad we cut to the chase tonight with a motion to reject. There's been a lot of work done on this. I've been part of that. I agree there's been a lot of effort. There's been a lot of things go on. But I think the bottom line is we have to reject a resolution. And here's a couple of things. This is part of an email I sent to you all this morning. The main reason that certain forces in the city on staff keep talking about, we have to have a seat at the table, we have to have a seat at the table, we have to have a resolution to have a seat at the table. No, you don't. No, you don't. There's a case out there that says, in no uncertain terms, no, you don't. You are supposed to already have your seat at the table. There are some who have said, the state is superior to the municipality. Well, in 1986, our Supreme Court rejected that approach and said, it's really up to who has the better interest. Does the municipality have the better interest, or does the state have the better interest? And what they said in doing that, they said, at the very least, state agencies should, quote, consult with the local authorities and sympathetically listen and give every consideration to local objections, problems, and suggestions in order to minimize the conflict as much as possible. The OTA is trying to fool you. They haven't told you about that, have they? You are already, the OTA is already under directive as a public servant themselves to give you a seat at the table. They have to do that. And I'm going to tell you, I'm a little concerned with doing a resolution and giving some of our staff a seat at the table after what I've heard. You only half. Some of you don't even know this to this day. Your staff only half fought the Turnpike battle. And there was no, they didn't fight the East-West Connector at all. And there was no good reason for that. Your staff is trying to build a 500-acre mega industrial park just north of the lake at 72nd and Indian Hills when and if these turnpikes go through. That's absolutely wrong. There's going to be a lot of public records getting out pretty soon, and they're not going to look very good. This is only the tip of the iceberg. There have been forces in this city who have been fighting for these turnpikes since long before the Supreme Court issued a decision on a now discredited rule of law to defer to the state agencies. The United States Supreme Court has discredited that rule of law. We're going to see it. It's going to get out. It's going to get out that there are forces within the city that are for these turnpikes, but no.
There you are.
Wow.
Thank you, Dave Moore, Ward 5 and Ward 3. In the 54 years I've lived in this city, I have never, ever seen the citizens of this town come together and say, give us a turnpike. Citizens of Norman, I'm excluding the contractors and the builders and the OTA guys and the developers. I'm talking about your regular, everyday, salt-of-the-earth people. Never have they come to their leaders in the city council and said, please give us a turnpike. You know why that is? Because they don't want a turnpike. And everybody knows it. You guys all know it. You want a seat at the table? I don't know what you call this big old thing up here, but that's a pretty doggone big seat. And it's yours. And you need to use it. Now, when we have meetings like this, and I hear from people who really want the turnpikes, I have to ask myself, well, who are they working for? Not the people of Norman. Yeah. Like, the council's supposed to work for the people of Norman.
Yeah.
They're not working for the people of Norman, so when people vote, oh, we want these turnpikes because, well, you're not voting for the people of Norman, which is your job. So that's kind of all I really have to say is just do your job to support the people of Norman. Yeah.
Marguerite Larson.
Thank you. Anytime.
It's hard to see faces for this. Clyde Smith will follow Marguerite.
Hi. Marguerite Larson, Ward 6. So, you all have been in meetings, you have been presented with information, you are looking with your constituents who do not want this turnpike. It makes absolutely no sense. It doesn't bring anything to anyone except a lot of destruction. So, as council members, you have something to say about this. You can either sell the soul of the city or you can protect its citizens. So, we're watching what you're doing. Thank you.
Amy Serrano will follow Clyde.
She's on her way.
Good evening. Mayor, council members, each of you understands your responsibilities to the citizens of Norman, including helping keep us safe and protected. No one knows more than the 9 of you the countless, many of them thankless hours you donate to overseeing the stability and growth of Norman. The balance of stability and growth is an incredibly challenging balance. However, we have rules and laws and processes in place to help guide this decision-making. I saw 2 examples of that today. The first is an intersection that is now a 4-way stop.
citizens notified the city of concerns of a dangerous intersection in West Norman at Northwest 60th, that's Western, and Rock Creek Road. Information was gathered by the city that indicated that intersection had become dangerous, with perhaps as many as 7 fatality crashes in the past year. 7 fatalities. This information was presented to the city. Based on those facts, a decision was made. The intersection of Western and Rock Creek Road is now a 4-way stop. Citizens have been protected, lives will be saved. Thank you for listening to those concerned citizens and taking the right action based on facts you were presented. The second example is the traffic flow on Gray Street. A request was made to the city, studies were done, facts were presented, the decision was made to change the flow of traffic from 1 way to 2 ways, as many of us saw driving to the City Hall this evening. This is the Norman process we are each familiar with and support. If the decision needs to be reconsidered, the City of Norman has a process for that as well. Dealing with the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority works nothing like our process. Our concerned citizens' voices have not been heard. No studies have been done to provide you the facts about the safest routes, possible options, serious environmental impact concerns, guarantees of treatment of our citizens displaced by eminent domain, and all of the other very important concerns citizens have voiced to you. The Oklahoma Turnpike Authority does not want your input, your participation, nor to hear your voiced concerns. The OTA wants only one thing: your signature on a partnership agreement. This agreement will take away the City of Norman's control to protect us from the OTA having their way with us. This would be an agreement with devastating effects that you would never be able to take back. You would never be able to gain more information, redesign, and fix it. You would never be able to fix this. Tonight, you have the opportunity and the power to protect Norman and the citizens of Norman.
I don't see that Amy's coming yet, so Darla LeBlanc.
She's coming in.
Okay, following Darla will be Adrian Gautier. Sorry about that. Is that you?
Yeah, I'll pass.
Okay.
Everybody's saying well.
Good afternoon, good evening. I'm Darla LeBlanc, Ward 5, and I'm here to say that instead of agreeing to surrender to the OTA today, the City of Norman should demand that they release the locations of all their proposed turnpikes through our town. It's really quite unbelievable that nearly 2 years after the Bureau of Reclamation denial of the current South Extension route, that OTA hasn't submitted alternatives or any sort of a plan to mitigate the environmental impacts. Why not? Our developers pressuring them to stay as far east as possible to provide the most space for urban sprawl. Today's leaked open records email chain from someone inside the City of Norman lends a lot of credence to that idea. How can OTA possibly ask for a partnership when they don't even know where they want the South Extension to go? So now there's this 4-mile-wide swath of uncertainty of that unknown South Extension that's impacting people's lives today. Those in the current path are trapped, unable to sell our homes or move. There's a house in the situation that I have seen go pending 4 times. It's been for sale, and then it's still on the market today after a year and a half. I think that buyers eventually realize, oh, it's in this proposed turnpike path. You know, that path the feds actually denied quite a while ago. Then there are people who don't currently have a line running through their home on today's map, but they may be affected if the South Extension moves, and many of them are still oblivious. I was messaged this week by a man who bought a house near 60th Avenue about 8 months ago. He was horrified to learn, last week by the way, that there is a turnpike in the planning stages for 2.5 years, with the potential to cut through his recently purchased home. He is a partially paralyzed veteran whose home is being modified by the VA to make it handicap accessible. The cost of that is very substantial, and he wanted to know if the OTA would pay the VA back if they eminent domain him. So many people are already being hurt by these theoretical turnpikes. OTA is pressuring Norman to fully cooperate when OTA doesn't have federal permission for their route. But what they do have is a 4-mile-wide black hole through the middle of their plans that they are intentionally ignoring. It is completely unreasonable to consider a partnership in these conditions. Once you shake hands with the devil, you have to accept that he is in control. Don't give OTA control.
Amen. Before the meeting in the back of the room, your names will still be called. There were 2 pages of people that signed up ahead of you online, so we'll get to you. It's just wanted you to know. Okay, next we have Tiffany Stevens, and Susan Berger will follow Tiffany.
Hi, my name is Tiffany Stevens, Ward 5. I sent an email out, one last week and one yesterday, and it was ended up being longer than I planned, but thank you for those who read it and emailed me back. But I just wanted to hit some of the highlights. First, if OTA wanted to work with us, they should have done so from the beginning. They should have come to the city of Norman and said, hey, we think we need this for whatever reason, for traffic or whatever. What do you guys think? Where do you guys want it? And they didn't do that. They did all of their planning in secret, and they did it in secret because they knew that the city told them no in the 90s, and they knew the legislature told them no. They wouldn't redo the laws to put this route in. But they decided they would just wait a few years and then do it anyway. So I also think, and I don't know if you guys know this, but before they announced it in February of 2022, they bought up all the domain names that were anti-turnpike. They were trying to control and censor any opposition to this. Second, they will not hold up their end of the deal. I think you guys have heard a lot of evidence lately of deals that they did not hold up their end of. We're tired of being lied to by the OTA, and we're tired of the corruption. Third, we already have a resolution from 2022, and they have not done the environmental studies, they have not done alternate route studies, and they have not done any studies on the impact of the Norman City residents. They haven't even counted up how many homes that are going to be affected. We did that, and we came up with that number, and it didn't take very long. This is shocking and unacceptable. We cannot work with the OTA until these studies are done because we cannot determine what's reasonable and what's responsible until we know what and who all is affected. Furthermore, the one study that they have done, which is the traffic study, was a copy of older data from the Kickapoo. And to my knowledge, no third party has reviewed that study to determine if this route is even needed or if it will even do any good. I mean, they've got the study, but the Council upon Oversight approved conditionally on that study, and I don't think anybody ever went back to review the study and say, yes, this is needed. And we all know that it's not really needed, and one of the claims was that it'll divert traffic off I-35 going to Tulsa, but if you go from Dallas to Tulsa, there's already a quicker and cheaper route than going north. You can Google it and see, I think it's 4 hours or 2 minutes if you go, and you won't even be on I-35. So if they build this with that intention, you're actually bringing traffic over. But I think at most it would save you maybe a couple minutes. But I think if you look at the actual data, it won't save you any time at all, and nobody's going to be using this route.
Debbie Saltzman will follow Susan.
Thank you. I'm Susan Bergen, Ward 2, my rock star, Matt Peacock. I have the 240 acres at the corner of 60th and Highway 9, and I'm here as that landowner. I think the statement that you want to protect the land is truly disingenuous at the lake. During the recent rain event, the heavy sediment-laden water crossed over the roadway and flooded my pastures at 60th and Highway 9. But more importantly, it carried all of that material to our Great Lake. I did take the time to go to Walmart
to the super center that was built here in Norman. And the engineers there got the same 9-inch rain as everybody else and retained all of the water off of that huge parking lot and that building. I further traveled just a little bit east from that, and there was a development developed 20 years ago by one of Norman's outstanding developers, the Serby brothers, and they had held all their water. It was within 3 inches of going over the dam. I have pictures if you need to see it. As I have repeatedly witnessed, the stormwater requirements can be engineered for Walmarts and engineered to hold water, yet we don't hold the water on our developments here in Norman. We as a city have continued to be resistant to innovative and simple solutions to clean the water we are sending to our Great Lake Thunderbird. I am here to contend that if we would be a beacon of quality management, then we could expect the same from our State Department of Transportation. They see the mess we are creating with our substandard water retention ponds all over the city. The infill of our city also creates less water infiltration areas, making more runoff. The density, well, I'm not opposed to the density, in Core Norman has no water retention, and it has huge downstream effects. We need to address all of the runoff problems we have as a city now before the lake fills up with our sediment. The Grove in Moore, Oklahoma had 6 inches of rain. We have helped them with their stormwater issues. A 13-acre site with 115 units. It held all of the 6 inches of rain off of Moore and Lake Thunderbird. It cleaned the water, filtered it, and let it out slowly. As we demonstrated our poor management with our project at I-35 and Highway 9 interchange, you sprayed chemicals at my huge resistance at the wrong time. You then put out seed that cannot grow in the chemical environment that requires a different pH. I have studied it extensively with the OTA staff and the Department of Environmental Quality. They have met me down.
Debbie Saltzman. Cynthia Rogers will follow Debbie.
My name is Debbie Saltzman. My husband and I have lived in Norman for 48 years and in Ward 5 for 36 years. We had planned on dying here, but now who knows what will happen. When I look at the big picture, I don't understand how Norman will be able to operate, buy drinking water, and provide basic city services without the revenue that will be lost to TIF and lost to the cost of maintaining turnpike frontage roads. And I'm sure that there are other turnpike costs that we are not privy to. So I don't know that we'll be able to live out our lives here as planned, and actually I don't know that I'd want to. With OTA and TIF, it feels like an octopus with its tentacles coming to gobble Norman up. I don't want to live in a place that believes it's okay to destroy our green spaces only to fill them with hot concrete. And I certainly don't want to live in a community filled with dollar signs and greed. There are more important things, and it's really hard to believe that you guys don't realize that. So I think it's obvious that I'm a hard no on turnpikes and on this resolution, and I'm a hard no on our citizens paying for OU to build an unneeded arena. I didn't know that you think that PIKE people are lying and don't know what they're talking about. That's really insulting and an erosion of trust. You must not truly realize the amount of work that has been done. I think the PIKE people have worked their tails off to tell the council how they can stop the OTA. And you don't believe them? I can only assume that there's something in it for you. As it is, apparently, I ask that you dig deep and be worthy of our trust and worthy of your oath. Prove my assumption wrong. I ask that you do your duty and protect the citizens from these invasions. You've been instructed on how to do it, and if you still don't understand, all you got to do is ask. The resources are right here in this chamber, ready to help you.
Good evening, Cynthia Rogers, Ward 4. I've never been so proud of my community as I've been to see all these people here tonight, to see the leadership that experts have taken to educate people about the issue, to inform them about the issue. And I've never been so disappointed as hearing people who aren't experts just want to ignore actual experts. We're a university town. We're really lucky. We have people who are experts in hydrology, economics, legal issues. So I beg you, we should listen to those. Instead of saying anything to take up a lot of time, what I would ask is the people in the audience, if your house is in the path where you might lose your home, will you stand up or raise your hand? We're talking about people's homes. They've invested their lives. They've made, you talk about investing in the community. These are people who have invested in the community. And the power of eminent domain to an agency that is run by people who are not elected officials is egregious. I think I saw some legislators here in the room, and I'm going to beg them, we need to do something about that. But in the meantime, the city of Norman does have the authority and the power to protect our water and to protect our citizens. And I urge you to approve the motion to reject this, because passing this resolution, you'll give up all your leverage. And I think we can fight this. Thank you.
James Livingston. James Livingston. Mayumi Windler. Following Mayumi will be Cheryl Hoggett.
Ward 2. Okay, a couple of things. So why do you think that the East Lake West Connector was chosen basically on the border of Norman and Moore? So it wouldn't have so much pushback from either one, because really, who cares, it's on the border, right? What if the location were instead Main Street? Would that change things? I mean, it's arbitrary, isn't it, that they chose Indian Hills? What if it were Lindsay, heading straight through OU? How would that change things? Okay, next thing. Yeah, you saw all those hands raised? These are people that are going to be without homes. We can't adequately house people in Norman. How are we going to house all of these additional families? Stuff to think about. Thank you.
Following Cheryl Hoggett will be Amy Mann.
Cheryl Hoggett, Ward 5. What I was going to say tonight has changed about 15 times. Each time I get on the website and see new things brought to light through the Open Records Act, my stress has gone from here to here. We are Norman. We are above this. We are above the back door, not letting the community know what's being planned behind closed doors. And probably some of you council members, which is sad. So I'm going to read part of the emails I have been sending you, plus some other things. It has not been suggested, nor has a council member proposed, to pick and choose which laws to enforce, ignore, nullify, or disobey. Mayor Heifela's statement that individuals on the council may
expose themselves and the city to legal consequences was very out of line. He also suggested that we cannot ask the state or ask OTA to do more than what the state requires. Reading from FEMA, the guidance for flood risk analysis and mapping, several states have adopted floodplain management laws and regulations that are more restrictive than NFIP minimum requirements. In addition, many communities, us could, have adopted more restrictive floodway or placed additional restrictions on floodway development. So yes, we can. This next quote I want you to remember because I'm going to be using it throughout the rest of this. The big thing is the public going to be able to trust us? So this was brought to light through the open records request, and I'm just going to read parts of this. Rob Norman alluded to part of it. On this one it says, she shared an idea. Hang on, I'll go to the next one. She shared that there's only one mega site in the entire state of Oklahoma for industrial development, and that means 500 acres industrial site with sewer, water, power, and high-speed internet. Without the blink of an eye, the next one says, Chris, start working on your numbers. I don't know who these are to. Let her talk.
Judy Benz. Elizabeth Morgan will follow me.
Mr. Mayor, council members, thank you for your time. I am State Representative Annie Menz. I'm standing up here to speak today, so I primarily like to focus on state level issues, but I'm also a Normanite. I represent the east side of our city and have worked tirelessly to enforce transparency and accountability regarding a turnpike that has been forced upon us. But after reading an email from our mayor about those of us who oppose said turnpike, I'm once again standing here with my neighbors. Myself, my constituents, your constituents, whom you deemed liars, have once again returned to City Hall to remind you that the dais will be accountable to the people. In my nearly 2 years in office, I have vocally and legislatively opposed this turnpike to such a degree that my work against it has drawn an opponent recruited and supported by those who would take homes from thousands of my neighbors. But I and these constituents sitting behind me will not be intimidated or silenced by political games, childish name-calling, or slanderous comments. Attacks leveled at us only strengthen our resolve. We understand what it means to have honor, courage, and commitment as core values. Honor means keeping our word to our constituents. Courage means taking the lead no matter the risk. And commitment means consistently fighting for justice no matter the obstacles ahead. These values remind me that I work for all residents, not just the ones that I agree with. These values drive every decision I make. And although public service is challenging work, it's a lot easier when we remember who we work for. I hope you'll work harder to listen to all citizens that you represent. I hope you'll see that the opposition to this turnpike is not partisan. We Pike people here are conservative, liberal, independent, and everything in between. For us, it's not about picking the winning side. It's about saving our homes, our environment, our livelihoods, our way of life, and our family legacies. We are your constituents, and we would love for you to represent us.
Representative Menz. I'm Elizabeth Foreman, Ward 6. 2 months ago, when I stepped down from City Council, I joked that the City of Norman was my boyfriend, and not to mess with my boyfriend because I would be watching. And 2 months later, I am back to speak against a trash resolution. The city staff and council can try to gaslight and deceive and conflate fact and fiction with everybody else in this room. But apart from Councilmember Holman, I was on this dais longer than the rest of you, and Councilmember Peacock, longer on the dais than the rest of you when this started. And we were not given any information. We were deceived, we were very softballed any sort of information, and our hands were tied. We had to turn to the people in this audience to get factual information about state laws and things that we could do to try to protect our people. I was behind the curtain of Oz for the last 4 years. You cannot deceive me. I know what this resolution is. It is handing over these people and all the residents in our community and our neighboring communities on the altar of the OTA. We are gift wrapping them and handing them over. We're acknowledging that you're going to come and you're going to do it anyway. We're not going to fight for you, but we're going to work with you for it. It's a trash resolution, and I hope you all vote against it tonight. Thank you.
I want to apologize in advance. I'm pretty sure I'm going to mess his name up. Tammy Buger. Sorry. Jana Corn will follow Tammy. I'm Tammy Buford, Ward 5. I have a business in Ward 6, longtime Norman resident. Thank you for the time. So much has already been said. I just want you to remember when you're voting on this, that the stress level already for the people that are affected, could be affected, might be affected, eventually affected, is crushing. And often, the largest asset that anybody has is their home. The values, the houses are being devalued already. You cannot buy and sell as typical out there with this looming. It's looming and it hasn't even been studied. It hasn't even been proven. They haven't given us what they are supposed to give us as a city to even consider this. So I'm just asking that you remember that every rooftop is a home. It has a value that is intrinsic in this community. And those of us who have been here a short time and a long time are really hoping that you will thoughtfully consider this and exercise your legal right not to join with a corrupt OTA. Thank you for your time. Brendan will follow Jen.
Good evening. My name is Jenna Horn and I live in Ward 5 and I'll be representing the Sierra Club, the Red Earth group today as a member of its executive committee. So first I'd like to remind everyone in the room that a resolution should be a directive from the City Council to the city staff on how to proceed with an important issue. A resolution should not be a document that strong arms the City Council into agreeing to the demands of the OTA. Therefore, we urge you to reject this proposal. The Red Earth Group had originally endorsed the original Nash Pike-Off OTA resolution a month ago because we understand that both these turnpike extensions will threaten our water, our drinking water, greatly increase stormwater runoff, and increase flooding risk in Norman. The Nash resolution provided a clear roadmap of how the City Council can use its legal authority to stop these toll roads. This roadmap started with a strong opposition to the toll roads, and it did not contain any language that subjugates Norman to the demands of the OTA like tonight's resolution. Also, most of the carryover language from Nash's resolution to protect our water will be null and void if we agree to any type of partnership resolution. This is because cooperation with the OTA means the city will agree to all turnpike plans, designs, routes by early September before any environmental impact statements are completed and before federal permits and permissions are granted. This is unacceptable. In fact, we now believe that any agreement to negotiate with the OTA at all, ever, is unacceptable. And because of the diligent work of PIKE OTA board members and others, we learned of just too many examples of other cities that clearly show that the OTA cannot be trusted at all. And finally, it is our understanding that state law requires the OTA to form an official partnership with the municipality before they begin construction on its lands and roads. The City of Norman must exercise its legal authority to prevent the OTA from trespassing, and the City Council must vote down the partnership resolution so it will not, so it will be possible to do this. And then I just want to end with like a visualization. What OTA wants to do to the east side of Norman will look like an F5 tornado, just destroy it. I also want you to know that all those people that stood up and the people that didn't stand up, they have families and they have friends and they're voters too. So anyway, thank you for your service. We love the city that we call home, and we want to preserve and protect it, not just for ourselves, but future generations too.
Panel of posts will follow Fred.
With liberty and justice for all, I think we all pledge. I'm Fred Bidwell, a resident of Norman for 46 years, my whole life. I'm here today to urge the council to vote no on the amended partnership resolution. The Oklahoma Turnpike Authority lacks democratic representation for those whose land is at risk. Aside from the governor, all members of the OTA are appointed by the governor, not elected. If a government agency is empowered to seize private property, the affected citizens must have a say in who holds that power. This is a basic principle of democracy and justice, and one that was clearly stated by the mayor during his election campaign. In fact, I campaigned for and voted for the mayor largely because of his principled stance on this issue. Does he still stand by those principles, or was that just more of the empty campaign rhetoric that has come to characterize American politics? I'm not opposed to eminent domain in principle, but it is a power that demands robust democratic oversight. The current structure of the OTA, with its lack of elected representation and a vested interest in expanding its budget through more turnpikes, does not meet these criteria. We cannot afford to trust in the goodwill of unelected officials when such significant consequences are at stake. Instead, we should demand a democratic process where the people have a substantial voice. We must not move forward with any turnpike projects until the democratic process is secured. It has been said that we must agree to this partnership because the Turnpike project cannot be stopped, and we must partner with the OTA in order to negotiate. This is nonsense. The OTA would not be using strong-arm tactics against the city if the city's partnership were not crucial. They need the city's partnership and are willing to threaten us to get it. Are these the actions of a democratic authority that is working for the people? This partnership resolution is based on a problem identified by the OTA and a solution that conveniently aligns with their financial interests with no democratic participation by the people most affected by this turnpike. How will you feel about endorsing this partnership if it turns out in the future that this process was corrupted and you did not stand up for the Norman citizens whose lives were torn apart by this turnpike? Every person in the path of this project stands to lose considerably. A real estate appraisal does not replace the years spent developing land, building lives and livelihoods around a specific place. Every person on this council chose to represent and protect the citizens of this city. These property owners, however, did not choose to be the targets of an unelected bureaucratic authority. This turnpike will irrevocably and profoundly shape the future of Norman in ways that cannot entirely be predicted. Let's be perfectly clear. If you vote to endorse this partnership, you are voting for hundreds of properties to be taken, along with profound loss and consequence for each of those property owners. You will bear the share of responsibility for that decision and for the consequences. This is not an abstraction, this is real. You are elected by the people of Norman, not by the unelected OTA, not by the state government, but by the people of Norman. This will probably be the most momentous and consequential vote you will cast during your time serving the people of Norman. Now is the time for personal courage for the sake of the people of Norman, for the hundreds of families who will be directly affected, and for the future of our city. Please stand with the citizens of Norman and vote against this partnership. Thank you.
Cassie Hirschfeld will follow him.
Hey, Cassie. Hi, good evening. I'm Pam Post, and I'm from Ward 5. Got it right this week. This resolution was started by the request of the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority, or OTA. It leaned heavily in favor of the OTA with a token nod to the city of Norman. Upon examination of the original resolution, several council members recognized that it did not contain the proper protections for Norman citizens, their homes, or their drinking water. What evolved was a new resolution that still contained OTA's demands, along with many requests from the city attempting to correct the deficiencies. A mishmash of a resolution. Thereafter, several meetings were held. Oklahomans for Responsible Transportation, ORT, held an in-depth study session for council with the intent to educate members on how OTA functions, their game plan, and experiences of other government agencies. Many council members have chosen to open their minds and listen to the information given. Some cannot even look at us tonight. Some have chosen to state that ORT, the PIKE people, are not telling the truth. I have difficulty accepting that an organization I have chosen to participate with has a membership of people who lie. A lot has happened in the last few weeks. Variations of resolutions, meetings, email campaigns, behind-the-door conversations, rumors, falsehoods, and truths. So tonight, it has all come together. Council has made a motion not to approve a resolution that capitulates to the OTA. Thank you for listening to the truths and making a wise decision that protects the citizens of Normans. And thank you for letting me speak. I do appreciate your time and work that you have put into this. Have a nice evening.
Mary Bourne will follow.
Hi, Tessie Hirschfeld, Ward 5. I realize that maybe the college professor me, but I would like to ask Mr. Pyle if you could do us the courtesy of joining the rest of us here in the meeting.
Please, the rest council is
the reason for this is that some of those emails from staff that were redacted and released out on social media today, there is not a specific author associated with them, but what does come across overwhelmingly is profound contempt for the public, for citizens, for the democratic process, and for the engagement and the strong feelings that we have about the Turnpike issue. And what this information does in perception that perhaps the city staff have not been honest with the mayor or with the public, what this does is erodes confidence in the entire organization and the entire democratic process. And so just as a personal courtesy, specifically to you, Mayor Heikela, I would ask that in your interactions with staff, which I've watched online and attended the study session, overwhelmingly I see you silencing the voices of experts and highlighting the voices of people who appear to have potential conflicts of interest. I will again remind you of the story of Sean O'Leary, a Norman city manager who did not speak honestly, and this is recorded in the Norman transcript and on multiple live streams that are archived, about the impact of the Turnpike, the eminent domain abuses that took place with the Kickapoo, and then who quickly went and took a job at Poe And Associates, the lead contractor that is getting millions of dollars for these Turnpike projects. This creates tremendous distrust in the community. It erodes the democratic process, and it makes us all very cynical. So we're here in numbers again to reaffirm that citizens are here to support we're not just here against the Turnpikes, but we're here to remind you that we are for democracy and that you work for us, not for any private contractors affiliated with the OTA.
Good evening. I'm State Senator Mary Bourne. I represent Senate District 16. I consider myself the lobbyist for 80,000 people because they don't have a lobbyist at the Capitol. The road builders do. The OTA has a pretty effective liaison as well. And I've spent 2 years with my colleagues at the state capitol, a bipartisan, bicameral attempt to hold an agency accountable that has grown since Gene Stipe's years into this mess that we see today. Over the years, there's been a lack of accountability. And I would just ask you that are on the fence, I know some of you that this is just a matter of just rubber stamping and moving on, but I do believe that there's enough of you that are on the fence, that I ask that you would dignify the passion and the dignity and the preparation, the evidence and the facts that you've heard here today. These people in Norman deserve the dignity of a well-deliberated decision. I also ask that you will join us in representing the most amazing, competent, dedicated, devoted group of people that this is the rarest thing that's ever happened in Oklahoma history, to have this kind of people work together to hold government accountable. And you have the opportunity to stand with us. You don't have to go down the path that every other body and board that have been in these chairs that you've been in have failed to do. The Turnpike Authority, they failed to hold them accountable. The Transportation Commission, they failed to hold them accountable except for one person. The Supreme Court, there's a wonderful dissent.
Yes.
And you're sitting, it's your turn now. And you get to stand with the people of Norman based on facts and evidence and a good business decision, good economic decision, good environmental decision, or you can make a politically corrupt, politically convenient decision like Gene Stuck would have you do. I hope that you stand with us and not Gene Stuck.
Leslie Noble. Jesse Matlock will follow Leslie.
My name is Leslie Noble. I live at 3848 Bristol Drive. I live in Ward 3. I'm opposed to this partnership because after attending the study session, I've been learning more about the OTA. I don't believe that they have any interest in having a partnership with Norman or caring about what Norman thinks. I think they're looking for a rubber stamp to do whatever they want, and I hope that Norman would not give it to them and find another way to discuss the future plans. Thank you.
I'd like to thank the City Council for your time tonight to listen to the citizens of Norman. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Jesse Matlock, lifelong resident of Norman, Ward 5. I'm over at 48th and Indian Hills. And Oklahoma Turnpike Authority has decided they want to put a turnpike right on my house. All right. The Matlock family, we established our presence in this area in 1890 at the spot where my aunt lives right now on our 87-acre family farm. I live next door. We've been providing food for this community for 130 years. I was born here, graduated here, I'm still youth, I work here, I live here. Okay, that's who I am. I am Norman. Outside my window, every day, I see every kind of animal that you can see. It's my little paradise out there. I'm working hard to promote regenerative agriculture and ecotourism. I want my children to have the same sunsets and sunrises that I had when I grew up on my grandparents' farm. This OTA, we have to ask us, what is it for? Right? What is it for? It's not the will of the people. Civil engineering can achieve much better transportation needs than this achieves, right? It's always been about the money. My peers have presented evidence of budgets and where the money goes to, what the citizens receive for our toll monies, how much bond money gets paid. The mayor has said that we have an oath to defend the Constitution, and we do. The Declaration of Independence states the Creator gave us unalienable rights of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. This, the forced taking of homes, is none of those. It goes on to say that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is right of people to alter or to abolish it. So I say abolish the OTA.
Yeah.
So I encourage the council to vote against any agreement with the OTA. like I said before, my peers have presented enough evidence for you to make a solid decision. There are some on the council, maybe here, that might seem to be afraid to stand up to the OTA. Well, guess what? You don't have to worry about it. Because I'm not afraid, and all these people aren't afraid to stand up to it. You have the courage to stand up to the OTA and for what's right. We just need all of you to be our voice. Thank you for your time.
Catherine Brunk is next, followed by Paul Wilson.
I'm good.
You say you're good?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Catherine Brunk, Ward 8. I live in the Blue Lakes Edition, just right off of Bean Hills, so I'm not directly in the path of the turnpike, but it will be in my front yard. So a lot of really good input from everybody here in this room tonight, so excuse me if any of this is redundant, and excuse my rant. Thousands of citizens, I guess collectively known to some as PIKE people now, have nothing short of begged you to prevent this. We don't need it, and we certainly don't want it. That's all you need to know. We don't have to listen to the OTA side of the story, or entertain them while they dangle carrots in the form of a big sidewalk to nowhere in our faces. All we have to do is say no. You were put in these positions by your constituents to represent the citizens' best interests in the governance of Norman. Not your best interests, and certainly not the best interests of any outside agencies. Unfortunately, it seems that certain members of this body are under the impression they get to run the citizens in the best interests of the city, and quite literally out of the city, at the behest of an agency that has notoriously left nothing but destruction and loss in its wake. It is not unlawful to oppose a government action which is not only unjust and unethical, but also wholly counter to the ultimate good. In fact, it's your duty to oppose it. It's all of our duty. The Constitution gives us that right and that responsibility. However, since some of us can't seem to accurately cite the law, and the leadership here wants to try to hide behind the Constitution by lying to the council about what powers they have and bully them into voting against their constituents, see Statute 69, Section 1716B, which is part of the state constitution in case you wondered, though I hope you've heard it a few times by now. In short, it gives municipalities the power to grant permission for these OTA projects to move forward and requires the authority to obtain consent and partnership from the city to move forward. Therefore, it also gives you the power to deny access. Consent compelled by force, threat, deception, or intimidation is not consent, it's coercion. Do not let yourselves be victims of coercion. Deny access. Vote no on the amended resolution. Vote no for the turnpike.
Greg Fitter is next, followed by Randy Carter.
Greg Fitter, Norman Ward 5. My topic was touched on, but I will expand it. Just one of many reasons why this resolution should not be approved. During the discovery phase of the Open Meeting Act litigation, a fact came to light. The fact is that 2 weeks prior to OTA's public announcement of the Access Program, the OTA directed the purchase of 23 domain names it felt could be used by those opposed to the Access Program. They were names such as stopaccessoklahoma.com, stoptheturnpike.com, and oklahomans.against.turnpikes.com. The Norman Transcript and State Impact Oklahoma published relevant articles. In the State Impact article, OU Professor of Public Relations Jensen Moore states, quote, "One of the ethical issues involved in public relations is failure to provide the public with information that allows them to make informed decisions. Purchasing domain names where oppositional information can readily be shared is denying the public access to alternative viewpoints that will allow them to be informed. It is not about disinformation. It's about denying oppositional information. From a public relations standpoint, this is unethical of the OTA to do because they are purposely attempting to limit any information that publics need to make decisions about this project. End quote. From purchasing potential opposition domain names to blocking common sense legislation, the OTA has proven itself to be an agency deeply rooted in secrecy and one that works diligently to suppress opposing views. If this resolution were to be approved, it will likely be propagandized by OTA and its cohorts in their ongoing efforts at the state capitol to silence any and all opposition. Please stand strong and united with your fellow citizens to repulse the invasion of unjustified and unwanted turnpikes into our uniquely wonderful city. I respectfully urge you to vote no on this resolution. Thank you.
Stephen Ellis will follow Randall.
Good evening, council members, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the privilege of being here tonight to speak to you all. I got to tell you, I take a little bit of umbrage at being referred to as pike people not telling the truth, and that kind of hurts me. But be it as it is, that's where we stand. Not telling the truth. We've referred to a few things tonight about staff and what staff has done, and you all have to rely on staff for information about this turnpike, for research and all kinds of things. We've also done a lot of that kind of stuff too. But I'm referring to the study session that just occurred on a Sunday. No, that was on a Tuesday, wasn't it? Yes, on a Tuesday. There were some issues about dealing with contracts and agreements between the OTA and other entities like a county commissioner, board of county commissioners, or a city, or other things. And I believe that none of our people that were allowed 15 minutes each to recite vociferous information that we've gathered were allowed to answer any questions. And one of the staff members was asked if he was aware of any agreements or contracts or anything of that nature were in the works. And I believe that he said no, there were none that he was aware of. And I want to call your attention to the fact that at that moment, there was a in the packet that one of our people had given to you all, there was a document called an agreement between the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority and the Board of County Commissioners of Oklahoma County, a signed agreement. So my question is if you all are here to rely on staff, and staff doesn't give you the information that's out there, and we've had some people alluding to the idea that maybe staff is working for the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority. That's hard to say. But my question is if this was there and it wasn't found, that you all were asked about it, was that willful intent or lack of competence? Either way, that brings to me the question is how reliable is the information that staff is given to? We've done tons and tons and tons of research. These are the pike people. We do know what we're talking about, and I've always prided myself on telling the truth, and I take a little bit of umbrage at that comment. But anyway, I urge you, I appreciate the motion to deny. I ask for your no vote on the resolution.
Steve Ellis, Ward 4. I want to start with just a parliamentary clarification if I can, so check me if I'm right here. The motion on the floor is a motion to reject the resolution. So if you're opposed to the resolution, you got to vote yes when we get done with this, okay? So let's make sure that that's you're going to vote yes. becoming clearer and clearer as these Open Records Act records are getting out. That the point of the turnpikes that are going through Norman are not to move people from place to place across the state, but rather to sort of crack open Norman's carefully negotiated zoning decisions to keep the character of East Norman agricultural. In other words, we're faced with this problem because there are people in the state, and apparently some people in our community as well, who are interested in opening agricultural Norman up to much more intense development. We learned about one project that people are excited about now. Robert Norman discussed it. It's a giant transportation hub that's beyond 48th Street. But it's become clear that this is very much a special interest project, and the special interest is asking the city of Norman to go along with a proposal that helps them at the expense not only of Norman money, but the housing of people who live in Norman. They're literally eminent domaining people's housing. That's why I think it's important that you are very, very clear with OTA. Norman does not want this turnpike. Not only does it not want the turnpike, but they're going to insist on building it. We do not want any exits on this turnpike. They can only build the ones that they have a legal right to build according to the Supreme Court. And if they want to deed them to us or have them otherwise connected into the city of Norman, we should say no. We don't want any of that stuff. That's right. A big part of what's going on is an attempt to invade East Norman for the benefit of the development community over the state. Yeah. So vote on the motion to reject the resolution, all right?
Ray Young is next, followed by Ron Cotter-Manson. Is Ray Young here?
Mayor, council people, I currently reside at 2055 Southeast 60th. And I'm tired of hearing all this rhetoric because OTA has got us starting things up. And you guys are having to absorb it. It's a big show game. OTA has been lying from the get-go. They're an over 70-year-old organization. When they were building HE Valley, they promised the people that once it was paid for, it would be a freeway. Yeah. Guess what? It's been paid for so many times, it's sick. But I spent a lot of time writing up a little speech about, about what's going on. But I'm tired of the corruption in our government, our county commissioners, council people, I'll say it. I'm not going to name names, but you're judged by your associations. The people, the unscrupulous, unethical builders in this town, and Stitt is trying to remove all regulations so people can build more houses. This is only the tip of the iceberg. What they're wanting to do is put a trucking route with distribution centers around Oklahoma City and all this whole area because it's central right in the middle. Goes everywhere, goes here and there. So the acreage I'm sitting on is 5 acres. There are more 100-year-old oaks on it than I've ever seen in my life, and over 100 years old. There's historical remnants on the property, and it's beautiful. I get to see deer, I get to see cows. I mean, I don't have to go to a zoo to see them, right? So, long story short, it just really frustrates me because of the blatant stonewalling And besides, I have not heard one thing about the Fifth Amendment of the United States Constitution. Read Article number 5. Article number 5. And I heard it muttered the other day in a planning session that y'all were afraid of being sued if you voted for it. Like I'll tell you, I'll let you know a secret. There's 600 households that have the same option to sue you.
That's right.
And we can climb right on up. I think we got enough people here that we can climb up.
Next is Didi Pavani. Good job. And Margaret Blevins will follow him.
Hello, Rich Urbani, Ward 4. The Turnpike will be right in my backyard because all that green space back there, it's for everyone's in Norman to enjoy, and everyone will be worse off if it gets converted in a road in a slab of concrete. This resolution, and I quote, wants to protect and preserve the critical areas of Norman, while at the same time writing a blank check for the OTA to do whatever they want. Because the OTA is the epitome of big government, who's far away from all the consequences of their action and don't care about their citizens. What we've seen with this Turnpike, what we've seen with the TIF, is that there are people in three positions. There is most of us here paying taxes, someone even worse off, right, risking to lose their houses. There is someone far away that doesn't care at all about the watershed or drinking water because they're drinking their water somewhere else. And those are the ones that are set to profit from all this destruction. And then there are the people that they're especially interested about. We've seen how the OTA is acting, we've seen how some of the city council is acting, and you can see who's in the pocket of who from the reports of the election financing. Building more roads, building more drains is a 100-year-old idea of development. Yeah. It's something that's proven over and over again to not work. You want to move people, you want to move things faster, build some rails. We've been talking a long time about trying to Oklahoma City. That will make 35 easier for everyone else. And trains are wonderful. We don't need a seat at the table. This is our table OTA is coming to. They are unwelcome guests at our table. And we should not entertain their idea, we should not open the door to them. We need to keep them out and push back to this destruction of Norman. That's it.
Judith Wilkins will follow Margaret.
Hi, my name is Margaret Blevins. I live in Slaughterville. Good luck getting my mom out of her house. Seriously. She was married to a military man. Do you guys know what's going on with the Bureau of Reclamation? Are they supporting this still to keep OTA out? You do realize if you cede your rights to Norman's water, they'll just step aside. Why should they do anything if we don't?
Good point.
Do you know what a TMDL is?
Yes.
Total maximum daily load. There's a TMDL on Lake Thunderbird, It's been their price since day one, actually 2013. It sets limits to what can come into that lake safely. Now, unfortunately, it's not a regulatory TMDL. I checked it out. But it says how much nutrients, sediments is allowed to keep that lake what it is now. Thunderbird is on the 303D list. It is an impaired watershed. If you don't know what impaired means, it's diminished, it's damaged, it's weakened. So we are doing, the state is doing, agencies like DEQ do what they can. But it doesn't matter how careful OTA is. Building a turnpike next to an impaired watershed is undoubtedly going to introduce a larger sediment load which can smother an already stressed aquatic life and their habitat. Road construction can also introduce heavy metals, oils, and other toxic substances, no matter how careful they are. The debris from construction, traffic, and spillage can be absorbed by the lake's soil and carried with runoff water directly into the lake. Mr. Mayor, have you considered what will happen if OTA pollutes Lake Thunderbird beyond its ability? And Norman no longer has drinking water? Thank you.
Sean Steadley will follow Judith. Hi. Judith Wilkins, Ward 4. Please extrapolate how many more people feel the way that all these people here feel who aren't here this evening. Over a decade ago, Norman City Council passed an ordinance limiting development east of 48th to protect our water supply. A turnpike through this area would totally annihilate that protection, as Ms. Blevins just laid out. The destruction of over 600 homes any place in the U.S. would be major, major news. And where are these people going to move? You want to have more people come to Norman? You're going to lose people. Where will they move to? There aren't 600 places available now in Norman. As Councilmember Ball said earlier this evening, Norman looks out for its constituents. These are your constituents, not the OTA. I encourage you to reject the resolution, and I encourage you to reject any turnpikes in Norman. Thank you. John Studley. Cheryl Ann Denso.
Good evening, Norman and council members, mayor, Cheryl Ann Denso. I have property in Wards 4 and 6. And I would like to remind council that we're watching. All of Norman is watching, okay? These people here have their eyes on you, but all of Norman is watching. And your actions impact every single person, not only here, but for generations. So you have to be able to live with your decisions. I implore you to drop the partnership with OTA. Thank you.
Kevin Dunn. Philip and Alice Denton will follow Evans.
Hi, thank you. Evan Dunn, 1400 Garfield Avenue, also representing youth council. Where's the debate?
I presume that there must have been some discussion, some showing, some data about efficient transportation and more demand for trucking and the need to have these corners shaken off. There has got to have been data accumulated. I don't know, maybe not. Maybe OTA just does things on a whim. So, okay, we're going to pander to the big oil companies. We're going to pander to the big shipping companies who, because they push their 18-wheelers on our roads, and they have this amount of political power and this amount of lobbyists, okay, this is going to help them. This is destructive and it's dumb. Yeah. There's no research. Again, they're disregarding the experts in this university town. They are not pro-intelligence. They are not pro-life of the mind. They're not even pro-environment. They're not even pro-life. I imagine they'd say that they're Christians, but they're not pro-life Christians because you don't destroy habitat. I've heard from several people, this is about future generations. I'm from Ward 7, I'm not from Ward 5. But everybody's been talking about deer and things that I love. What if we had some type of a bus route that took people who are from the other parts of Norman out there and they could experience what it is that you all experience, just for a moment, just for a couple hours maybe. They'd love it. We'd love it. There would be some revolutionaries who are willing to, I bet there's some in here right now. Would you lock yourself to a bulldozer? Yes. To stop this? Yes. Well, it's not going to pass. This cannot pass. Thank you.
Who's the beer?
You did it? Okay.
Give it to him, kid.
So, my name is Alice, and this is my brother, Philip Denton. We are here to talk about the Turnpike and where it's going to be going through and stuff. The Turnpike will be going through really close to me and my brother's house, and through many other people's houses, and through their properties, and maybe even some of their businesses. It will be also causing pollution to the environment and the water we drink out of, and for animals to lose their houses or homes. And then it'll cause an imbalance and stuff.
And who here is here to make the turnpike come? Nobody. It's just anti-turnpike. So why do we need it? That's my question. Everybody here is against the turnpike. Nobody's here to say, Turnpike, please come. What's the point of the turnpike if nobody wants it?
Here she comes.
Hi everybody, Amy Serrano, Ward 5. I'm assuming I'm still talking about the resolution of partnership. Okay, so obviously you've put a motion on to reject it, and that's great. Thank you so much. We don't need a partnership with the OTA. And I've written to all of you to talk to you about why they want to partner, and I just want to reiterate that for people in the audience maybe that don't know exactly why. So their playbook for 77 years is they plan in secret. They come into the municipalities about 60% done and say, hurry up and sign this partnership agreement, we need you, you need to tell us what to do or else. Well, that's because they have a statutory requirement to get an agreement with the city to come into your roads. And the reason why no one ever knows about this is because no one ever writes about it and no one ever puts it down in history. And so when they come back and slaughter another city 10 years after the last one, no one remembers. And now people are going to remember because PIKE OTA and the Oklahomans for Responsible Transportation are making our mission to write down everything about the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority so that municipalities from here on out know exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
And so the statute 69, section 1716 requires the OTA to partner with cities before the project can start. And I guess you can think about it this way. Why would the 12 big consultants that work for the OTA be contacting the mayor and the council people and the staff and telling them to sign a dinky little resolution from the city of Norman? They don't even live here. They live in Oklahoma City, Edmond. Why do they care about what the city of Norman does? They care because if you don't sign that resolution, the OTA can't come in. It's law. And so I applaud you for understanding that and standing tall the first time in Oklahoma history that a city has told the OTA no. And I hope your votes are that. And I know you know this, but I want to say this for everyone's benefit. We know that the city staff knew about this back in 2022. We have proof. We have the emails. We know that they knew the right-of-way. We know that they knew the routes. So there's no way that the city council right now has to do anything with the OTA. They're going to build it. They try to come in, we can take them to court, and let the citizens fight this, and the city get behind the citizens, because I think that the city of Norman is going to be the first city in Oklahoma history to stop the OTA. Thank you.
There we go.
Wow. Is that the end of the comment?
Yes. It's for this item, sir. This is a lot of support. There's no way we can overlook this number of people, this amount of this size of an effort. You don't see this very often, especially behind a single, such a single focused issue. But yeah, I'm sitting here as a steward of our community, as someone like you. Cherishes the land that we live on, the water that sustains us. We're gathered here not just to discuss the Turnpike, but to talk about something far more important. It's our water, our lifeblood, the very essence of what makes this land our home. Lake Thunderbird is not just a body of water. It's the source of our drinking water. It's the sustenance for our crops, the foundation of our way of life. And but now this vital resource is under threat from a proposed turnpike that would cut through its watershed, bring with it the risk of pollution and destruction. And the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority and the OTA is expecting us to roll over and accept their terms, threatening us with exclusion from the decision-making process if we don't comply. But let me ask you and the council this. When has yielding to bullies ever protected what we hold dear? principles ever, or surrendering our principles ever led to a better outcome. The OTA wants us to believe that their project is inevitable and that resistance is futile. And they sow the seeds of doubt, of hopelessness, because they know that a divided, disheartened community is easier to control. But I say to you, that inevitability only exists if we allow it to take root in our hearts. And we've seen what happens when communities give in to these tactics. In Oklahoma County, Harrod, Berry Hill, Jenks, and others were promised a seat at the table, only to be left out in the cold, footing the bill for a project they had no real say in. That same fate awaits us if we don't stand firm. But there's a way forward, in a way that honors our duty to protect our water and our homes and our future. And now, this whole resolution situation, it's been a roller coaster, to say the least. Going from one to the other. And initially I drafted a resolution that stands up to the OTA's demands. A resolution that says, yes, we value progress, but not at the cost of our water, our health, or our land. That resolution demands that the OTA conduct proper environmental impact studies, explore alternative routes, and truly includes us in the process. Some may call it a bold move, and some may say it's risky to challenge the OTA, but what's truly risky is allowing them to steamroll over our rights and our environment and our future. What's bold is standing up for what we know is right, even when it's difficult. And I want to urge my colleagues on council that we can embrace this moment. We're not just passing or rejecting a resolution. We're making a statement about who we are as a community. We're saying that we will not be coerced into sacrificing our most precious resource. We're standing with our farmers and our families and future generations. To those who fear that resistance is futile, I say this: the only inevitability is that which we create through inaction. By standing together, by demanding accountability and transparency, we can protect our water and our way of life. And this is not just a fight for Lake Thunderbird, it's a fight for every Oklahoman who believes in the right to clean water, the sanctity of our environment, and the power of a united community. Let's stand firm as a city and as a council, with courage and conviction, to show the OTA and the world that we will not be intimidated, will not be silenced, will not give up the fight for our water, our land, or our future. And a few weeks ago, I saw that we had a study session coming up to discuss infrastructure needs of the Turnpike. It's time to see if we can cut this thing off and at least put some kind of protections, advance some protections in place, if we don't have a resolution that makes our position clear on what our expectations are in the preservation of our watershed and our floodplains. And in fact, I think it was Randy Carter or Dave Moore at the beginning, before the meeting had started on the TV back there. We had the first slide of the PowerPoint presentation said discussion of the OTA resolution. I thought, awesome. That resolution I sent out, looks like we're going to be talking about it. Well, I was very surprised to learn that that's definitely not the resolution that PowerPoint or that slide had referred to. It was instead a demand from the OTA that we pass a resolution that declares our love for them in this Turnpike. And so, we had my resolution, we had this OTA groveling, we love you resolution. At the end of the day, the direction to hybridize the two. After some back and forth, a few weeks, we came up with one and another final version of that resolution. Ultimately, that's the resolution that's on tonight's agenda. It is my intent to make a motion to amend that resolution, to strike all of its contents and replace it with my original resolution. But, and then leaving up to the public comment to kind of get an idea, is this what Ward 5 wants? Was this the right move? We have the benefit of the intelligence of the community as a group and not just as individuals. I myself don't always catch these small details. For example, in the staff report, the OTA has requested the Norman City Council pass a resolution to present the city's requests and expectations of the OTA for any future coordination and construction on the east-west connector and south extension. First pass reading that, I think, well, my original one is, there's no request. We don't really want anything from the devil. We just have this list of expectations on how they're going to conduct proper studies. But then, now that we think about it, could that be construed as consent? Yeah. That we're acknowledging that their project and validating it, thereby, just by the mere fact of telling them we have expectations if it were to happen? Well, I am sincerely grateful that so many people from the community came up with me and went and spoke one by one. I wouldn't have caught that until hearing it so many times. So I'm excited that we get to reject this today. But the last 4 weeks was not in vain. Had we just had that one study session where all we had to go with was the We Love You resolution, I don't know how much of this discussion would have actually come out of that. Now, one of the problems with the resolution I initially proposed, and even hybrid ones, is that there's no real teeth with it. We can make all these expectations of how they're going to do proper studies to ensure that they're not going to irreparably damage our water supply. But there's nothing that really enforces that. There's nothing that really gives us the hope of having an outcome that we control. It's difficult to find a way to gain that upper hand and to actually have positive control over this chessboard that the OTA has thrown in front of us. My hopes is that, and perhaps everything is a long shot, my hopes is the resolution that comes on the next item that declares a moratorium on large projects in anticipation of an ordinance that I'll describe a little bit more once we get to it. That could provide the teeth that we need to have some kind of, the person have positive control and the power to guide the direction that this is going. But I just want to thank everybody for coming here. The outcome could have been different had the community not come up here and voice their opinions and their concerns. And this is the kind of involvement that we need as a community to be a stronger community.
Thank you.
Okay. Why doesn't OTA build us a fast rail?
Okay. I know I'm talking to many of you
I've received numerous emails, and I'm very forthcoming about where my stance was. A couple of weeks ago, I told you my concerns and my issues. We've had study sessions, and we've got to where we are today. Councilman Nash put in hours. I don't know how many hours he put in writing all these amendments and everything else. And I was really willing to work with Councilman Nash to get these amendments in here and, to work together, because that's what we do. Well, we compromise, we find a way that's going to work with everybody, and we try to pass something that's going to make everybody happy. Daryl or Rick, the 2022 resolution that was passed by council, was it basically the same as far as the city does not welcome or endorse the intrusion of the turnpikes built by the OTA? In Daryl's defense, what he does up there, a lot of times when he's not looking at you, is because we're getting information from you guys, and I'm asking Rick for court citations. I'm asking Daryl for, can you send me this resolution so I can look this up real quick so I have the information that I need right now to make an informed decision. So I just wanted to give them a little bit of defense up there. But so what the 2020 resolution, can you kind of just go over it very briefly?
And just to, we heard the date, February 2022, there was a public announcement by the Turnpike Authority, and they rolled out the $5 billion plan. And staff's goal was to get them in front of the council in this chamber to tell the public in Norman what that entailed. So it was either March or May of 2022 that we brought in the OTA to present that information to the city council in a public forum. And from that meeting, the city council drafted the resolution that came shortly thereafter. So Rick's got it pulled up on his iPad.
Well, there are a number of whereas clauses with regard to that resolution that talk about the history of that particular project. There are some whereas clauses that talk about the issue with regard to Lake Thunderbird. I think the operative language in this particular resolution, it can be paragraphs or sections 22, 23, and 24. 22 says that the OTA should conduct extensive study of its proposed construction and its impact on the Lake Thunderbird watershed prior to moving forward on any plans for construction, and share the results of such study publicly with the city of Norman. That insufficient information exists to support the construction of the Turnpike extension through the rural areas of Norman. And then finally, that without this information, the city of Norman opposes the construction of all aspects of the Aztecs of Oklahoma that are proposed to occur within Norman, including construction of the outer loop and the extension of the Kiffin Turnpike south through Norman and connecting to I-35 south of Coastal. And so that was the therefore be resolved portion of that resolution that was passed in March of 2020.
Did the OTA do any of those things?
No. None of them.
Here's my understanding of it. My understanding is, number one, the OTA board's approval of the south extension and the bonds for that was conditioned upon them doing an environmental study. So a condition of OTA moving forward with the bonds for this project was the conducting of an environmental study. My understanding is that they're not finished with that study yet, so that's probably why.
They haven't done it. They haven't done it.
So we passed a resolution requesting information.
Correct.
We are 2 years down the road. We still do not have that from them, which basically tells me that our last resolution was pointless, that we passed because they ignored it, which tells me that this resolution right here is pointless. And like you said, this is our opinion that we want to be protected. Well, no part of my language, I won't say it, but of course we want to be protected. And the only thing on this resolution that makes any sense to me is the city of Norman does not welcome or endorse the intrusion of the turnpike built by the OTA into our community. Yeah. The young man came up with a sister and spoke. Is there anybody here from the OTA that wants to come up and speak? I'll yield a few minutes. Is there any other citizens that would like to come up and speak on behalf of the OTA?
Is there anybody in this room that supports the OTA in any way? So what we're holding here is a completely worthless piece of paper.
Isn't everybody supposed to have a right to speak?
We finished the public comment.
And I was signed up,
What is your name?
but my name wasn't called.
What's your name?
And most everything has been covered, except for the fact that if the state of Oklahoma did not have the law of eminent domain, we all need to get a hold of our legislators, tell them, get rid of it. There's 13 states don't have that. And without that, there is no way that OETA could have come in here. Is that not correct? Now, the second item is the Pledge of Allegiance. In order to belong or to be a citizen of the United States, anybody coming into this country has to say the Pledge of Allegiance. And it's been shown here that one member of our city council thinks that she can sit with her back to the flag because of religious differences. Well, excuse me, if the city council and she is not intelligent enough to know to leave 2 words out under God, then none of you belong on this city council. I want to see a birth certificate. What is your name anywhere? There's many of them. Well, you're so welcome.
David for miscellaneous comment.
Yes. I want to thank you all for coming out to speak tonight and share your stories, especially to our electeds who came to speak, because that's usually something we don't see. And they felt so strongly to come and tell us what they plan to do to help us in the future. I ran in 22, and you may not know this, but I was with you at Cross Point at that first town hall. You can go to my website, where I had a statement about turnpikes there. I was asked early on in the week, it's only Tuesday, but early on if I had decided which way I was going to vote on this, and I said no, I was undecided. So to State Senator Mary Gordon, yes, some of us were on the fence. You know, because part of the process is taking in information all the way through up until you vote. And I did say to my constituents that asked where I was on this, that you would hear me forecast what I would say tonight before we voted. I think it's an easy yes to reject. I will say, I hope in hearing everybody's concerns for housing and stormwater, that when the Corps has issues with stormwater, and maybe we'll get to a place where we all can support stormwater utility fee, or figure out what to do with our unhoused population and people who are struggling to stay housed right now, that you carry that level of empathy over into these other struggles, because I think all our struggles are connected. I heard some things tonight, and I really appreciate the people that got the open records that concerned me and that I did not know about. And I will be curious to dig into that more. I will say this to wrap it up. Whatever comes moving forward, I think, this is just me thinking, that you probably do have the support of City Council to continue to fight this fight. And so I'll be interested to see where we end up from not only the municipality side, but all the way up to the state. So, thank you.
Could I just ask one question, please?
No, ma'am, be out of order. This is the time for the council to be able to make
Well,
that.
I just wanted to clarify with our city manager that he was paying attention. As an ex-teacher, I love to have my audience looking at me, and he hasn't looked up one time. I hope he is taking notes.
Councilman,
I receive a lot of emails, a lot of them, and I read every single one of them. and I might not have the opportunity to respond to all of them. But one of them asked me this following question. Where do you get the information that your constituents are against the Turnpike? And my answer is, from the overwhelming amount of emails and calls from my constituents in the city of Norman, the citizens of Norman. I was elected to represent my ward, represent the better interests of the city and all of the citizens of Norman. And as such, in this role, my constituents oppose the Turnpike, the citizens of Norman oppose the Turnpike, and I thank all of you for showing up and speaking and sharing your stories with us tonight. I was going to read the resolution that was passed back in March of 2022, but our city attorney did that job for me. And I'll leave this with a quote from Marcus Aurelius, the last good emperor, from Meditations 9.1. Injustice is a kind of blasphemy. Nature designed rational beings for each other's sake to help, not harm one another as they deserve. To transgress against the will, then, is to blaspheme against the oldest of the gods. I stand with my word, and I stand with the citizens of Norman.
Councilmember Holman.
Thank you. Again, thank you all for being here and being willing to get up at that podium and express yourself to us. It's not easy to do that, and it inspires me personally, and I think the show of support that you all have brought here helps us make bold decisions like this, to say no, and feel that the public has our back if we do it. So I know what it's like to lose your home and watch it be demolished. It wasn't through eminent domain, but 2 years ago this month, the house I lived in for 11 years on College Street, it wasn't for sale, but the owner made an offer that she couldn't refuse, and texted me while I was here during the meeting and said, "Hey Stephen, I'm sorry, but I've got to sell the house, and if in 24 hours you can match the offer that was made, I'll sell it to you." And I called some people, but I could not come up with that much money in cash in 24 hours. And I was given a few months to find another place and move. But it was the longest I'd ever lived anywhere in my life. I've lived in Norman almost my entire life, but I lived in apartments with my dad, and we moved around a little bit. And so this was a place I wanted to stay. I hoped to be able to purchase it one day and fix it up and all that. But on the day it was torn down, I went and watched, filmed it, took pictures. Today, where it was is just an empty dirt lot. Nothing's even been built in this place. And I had to move, and I had to stay in Ward 7, obviously, to continue representing my ward. And it was very difficult to find a place to live in my ward that was even remotely affordable. We were fortunate, we were able to find a place near campus, but it was almost exactly double the rent that I've been paying the previous 11 years.
Yep.
It doesn't have a big front porch like my old house did, and I'm thankful to have it, but it's just not the same. So I know what it's like, and I have an idea about what you all feel, and it's been the thoughts I've had since this was first announced is, what is going to happen to all of these people that would be in the path? Where would they go? Where in Norman could they move to? And if they live out in the country and you've got 5 acres, where are you going to find 5 acres for the same value that OTA might give you? Not in Norman, exactly. You're going to have to move to some small town far away. And Norman's my hometown, and yes, I've mostly always lived around the campus area, but one of the things I've always loved about our city is the urban and rural mix. And I know sometimes that there's a history of contention between rural Norman and urban Norman, but it's really one of the things that makes our community different than other places, and it's one of the things that makes us better, I think. I love being right here in downtown Norman, and 5 to 10 minutes I can be out in the country, away from the whole city, surrounded by nature, and can forget about what's going on here for a few minutes. I've served on the council for 11 years, and during that time I've served as the chair of the City Council Transportation Committee under 3 different mayors, under Mayor Miller, Mayor Clark, and Mayor Heikla. And transportation is something I've always been interested in. I loved playing with Hot Wheels and stuff when I was a kid. I had a Lego town in my room when I was a kid that took up the entire floor, and I slept on the couch actually because there wasn't room for a bed. All I ever wanted was Lego sets as a kid. So transportation and how people move around, and population census data and things like that, and how cities grow over time is something I've always really found fascinating. And it's one of the main reasons that I became interested in city council meetings when I was in middle school and watching them on TV on Channel 20 back when I had cable. And so I was real fascinated by the presentations for developments or blueprints for a project or a new street that was going to get fixed up or something like that. And so it's always been a primary interest of mine. But as chair of the Transportation Committee, my first knowledge of this proposed turnpike was that day in February when I saw former council member Richard Tortorello post it on his Facebook page. And he posted the access plan, and I thought, wow, how have we never heard of this, and why is the first time I'm seeing it on a Facebook post? You know, and that's just kind of how this has started. I remember the meeting at the church. I drove out there, and I remember seeing a line of headlights stretching down Highway 9 for as far as you could see, people trying to turn onto 24th and go to the church. And I see people like one of my former high school English teachers, Miss Rutledge, in the audience there. I don't know if I was the greatest student. That shouldn't be very well, but thinking about her family being impacted by this. I have 2 classmates that live in rural Norman. We graduated Norman High 20 years ago this year. They've been together since we were in high school, and they have a family, and their property could be impacted by this. So although Ward 7 is not impacted directly by the turnpike, my house isn't impacted by it, or any property that I own, people I care about are impacted by this. And my thoughts previously on the resolution was, well, if this is a done deal, we've got to try to get some concessions to the city of Norman. If this is going to be built, we need to make sure that certain things are taken care of. And I think that's the balance of a decision that all of us have up here is how do we weigh the impact of the people with the future of the city should this go through. Sometimes I've been criticized over the years for people not always being able to predict exactly how I'm going to vote on something. But it has a lot to do with the fact that often I have a pretty good idea, and there are things where I know pretty well beforehand, but I've always been able to be swayed by public comment. And I've always felt it was important that we all listen to the people that come down here to City Hall and are willing to get up at that podium and give us their opinion. And so, given what we've seen tonight, and given the fact that nobody in Ward 7 has reached out to me at all to express support for the OTA or the resolution, it's been overwhelmingly no. I had my email count whittled down pretty well, under 100 a few weeks ago, and now it's over 400. I've been looking through them, but I read them and then I put it back on unread so I know to go back and respond. But it's overwhelming, and some may think it's a vocal minority in Norman. I don't think so. I think for 2 solid years, going on 3, it's been a very vocal majority of people in the city, all across the city, that do not support this. And given all of those circumstances, I'm not going to support a resolution, and I'm going to continue to explore any option and support any option that will put the full power of the city of Norman behind the people as we continue to fight this until the OTA equals.
So I've been a city council person for about 1/8 of the time that Councilman Coleman has. But in my 2 months, it's been a very interesting trial by fire, to say the least. And looking out into the audience and seeing friends and family and neighbors that are impacted by this, I don't know how I could ever vote for something that's going to displace somebody from their home. I say that and also want to say that I don't want to stand in the way of development, but I also want to enter development partnerships as truly a partnership to where I'm not feeling mobbed into doing something that our citizens don't want, that could potentially displace so many people and have such a magnificent negative impact on so many lives in our town. So I'm happy to be a part of motioning to reject this resolution tonight, and I will continue that.
Thank you. So as a former Councilman Foreman alluded to earlier, there was only herself, myself, Councilman Holman that were part of the original 2022 resolution. And I just want to reiterate that in those 2 years since we passed that resolution, nothing has changed. And we still stand with you, stand in opposition to the Turnpike. And as far as I'm concerned, that resolution is still in effect.
All right. The motion on the floor is to reject the resolution. Council members.
I'll just remind you, a yes vote is for rejection.
Council members, with that in mind, you may cast your vote.
All votes have been cast and the motion to reject passes unanimously.
For 10 minutes, if you please be back at 9:20.
Of hell, but I won't back down. No, I'll stand my ground, won't be turned around, and I'll keep this world from dragging me down. Gonna stand my ground, and I won't back down. Pushing me around, but I'll stand my ground, and I won't back down. won't back down. There ain't no easy way.
2025, on the of new ordinance, placing additional requirements on such projects whichever occurs sooner. I'll need a motion to adopt, reject, amend, or postpone the resolution.
Motion to postpone.
Second.
I would like to use a comment on that.
I have a motion and a second to postpone. Good. Council comment?
All right. So yeah, this fun one, which will probably get postponed, they're saying that the council would like to give it a little bit more investigation, make sure that all the nuts and bolts are in the right place before tightening it down and watching it fall apart. We want to make sure that it doesn't fall apart. And so getting this thing right is pretty critical. I put it together in maybe a couple of days. So what this ordinance is intended to do, well, it started out as an ordinance. Mr. Knight was kind enough to inform me that, hey, we can do this as a resolution, and we don't have to get the supermajority for an emergency to go into effect immediately. Then it can go into effect immediately by virtue of being a resolution. He translated it for me. Well, what this does is it defines a new category of projects, large projects, which you can thought of kind of like mega projects. These are projects that are of a larger scope and scale than anything else that Norman has ever seen, perhaps I-35. And so, like, the regular developments should not be affected. In fact, there's a list of criteria. My intention was to make a couple amendments to bump up those criteria a little bit to require, well, I guess nobody has the resolution in front of them, so I'm trying to I've got one here, but we're like, people know what I'm talking about. All right, so yes, so whereas it is necessary to temporarily halt the issuance of permits for such large projects to prevent the approval of developments that may not comply with forthcoming regulations. Those permits being floodwater permits, stormwater permits, earth change, whatever permits that may need to be issued for a project of this scope and scale. And now therefore be resolved by the Council of the City of Norman, Oklahoma. The Council of the City of Norman formally adopts an interim policy prohibiting development of large projects within the City of Norman that meet at least 3 of the following criteria. One being the project covers at least 640 acres within city limits. Second one is the project covers at least 100 acres within the Lake Thunder River watershed. And the project covers at least 100 acres within any floodplain as defined by the Federal Emergency Management Agency or any applicable local ordinance. The project would result in the taking of at least 20 properties through the exercise of eminent domain. The project would result in taking at least 10 primary homes through the exercise of eminent domain. The project has cumulative costs of $500 million more as adjusted to 2024 dollars using the Consumer Price Index or another similar inflation index recognized by the city. The project crosses a stream or a creek is recognized as impaired by the Department of Environmental Quality. And the project involves construction, expansion, or significant modification of a major transportation corridor such as an interstate highway, state highway, or major airport, and has a direct impact on regional transportation networks. So if any 3 of those are satisfied, then that would be considered a large project. And this moratorium would prohibit the issuance of any permits that would be that large project would apply for until July 1st, 2025, or until we adopt an upcoming ordinance. So the upcoming ordinance that we're planning on writing, when it comes to teeth enforcing the OTA or other big projects to do a NEPA study, that's kind of the dream. That was referenced a lot in one of the previous resolutions. But we can't force these developers or these entities to do federal NEPA studies. What we can do is we can borrow heavily from the language of the NEPA studies, which I suggested that we call it the Norman Environmental Policy Act, or NEPA for short. We transfer those into our own ordinances that require those, with a handful of things being translated to a municipal code. For example, instead of having a federal expert reviewing the environmental impact statement, it'd be an ad hoc committee that's formed here that will hold the public hearings. The main things that be establishing is it will require environmental impact assessments, public involvement, alternate route analyses, mitigation measures, and documentation. Now, these are more stringent requirements than we have for other developments, but no other developments have such a profound impact, or could potentially have such a profound impact on our city. And so thereby I believe it's justified that we do put in these this new ordinance to require these additional layers for projects that are this large. But as I said, I think we're going to be postponing this until a few weeks from now. So it's got to go through the process, going through the community planning and transportation committee, and then study session, and then we'll probably be able to see it on an agenda maybe in about 6 weeks. It's going to give or take. But now, one thing explicitly is it's not to be used for what it's not. It should not be able to be weaponized against current developments. There should not have ever been a development that's happening in the city that would meet 3 of these criteria, and that is something that we're working. The final ordinance of it we get together with developers and make sure that these criteria are such that none of their projects would have triggered this, because this isn't intended to hinder any local economic development or housing developments. It's only intended on these just massively large-scale projects. That's it.
Yeah, so I think Councilmember Ash definitely has an idea worth exploring here, and like every piece of policy that we put forward, it starts in committee. So we determined that the Community Planning and Transportation Committee is the right fit for this one, and so we're recommending that we put it back to that committee and start the process like we normally would with any piece of policy. So I'm going to support this one postponement tonight.
Councilmember Grant?
Yes, I said in our council conference earlier that I was concerned about not using our regular process and not setting ourselves up for success and potential challenges in the future, so I will be supporting this postponement.
And clerk, this is an opportunity for persons in the public. Comment on this.
Kelly Wilson.
Kelly Wilson, Ward 6, and I have to admit that this is something I had not thought of until I saw this on the agenda. I think it's a great idea. I think the Turnpike Authority's project came in, it was this mega project, and it kind of caught everybody off guard. Nobody expected it to come, but we did have a plan in place. And so I think this is a great idea. It's a great opportunity for you guys to sit down and try to come up with something that will put a plan in place for the next time a mega project comes in, so that everybody's not caught off guard and you kind of know what to do and you have something you can work from. So I just want to say thank you for putting that together, and I look forward to what you guys come up with.
Rob Norman.
Now we're heading down the road that we really need to head here. This is going to be postponed, but I think we're talking about the same thing when we talked about Mr. Nash putting up the resolution and council members talking about postponing the resolution. It's moving down a road toward a better, more vibrant set of ordinances. We've told you that the floodplain ordinance needs to be strengthened and clarified. Many cities have environmental reporting ordinances. We don't have to start from scratch. We have NEPA. We have examples from other cities. We have things to do like that. We can look at housing and displacement ordinances. Really, this is a time to think and be creative and think out of the box. And remember, as I commented last time, This is not a state is superior to the municipality thing. This is a question of what is the municipal interest? Does the municipality have a compelling interest that outweighs that of the state? I would say in most instances, the city of Norman on these issues has a much more compelling interest than anything the OTA can throw up on the board. Any ordinance you pass, of course, you're going to risk, do we need to look and see if this has already been preempted? Because sometimes the state does that. You're also going to have to look, well, our legislative folks are going to have to go fight for your ordinance up at the state legislature. Because some dude who lobbies for the OTA is going to say, let's preempt this ordinance that the city of Norman just put in place to make it harder for us to put in turnpikes. Let's have at that. Let's have that discussion. Let's have that talk. Let's expose anyone who doesn't want to protect the people and the local governments for what they are. Undemocratic, autocratic. This is the chance, not by partnering with the OTA, but this is the chance for you to really transform your city. Housing, floodplains, fix stormwater once and for all, fix pollution once and for all. This is your opportunity. You're volunteers, but you're going to earn what little pay you get over the next few months. Thank you.
Dave Moore. And Amy Sorrell, you'll follow.
Well, I think now that we've kind of embraced the reality of what it would be to have a mammoth-sized project just beat Norman to pieces, that this resolution is a great idea. And if it turns into an ordinance, yes, table it, give Michael or whoever needs to be in charge of it everything he needs to make it everything that it can possibly be. But I think we need to do it with a grain of salt, realizing that not everything's okay already, you know? Not a whole lot of things have actually changed. I was really embarrassed when Councilman Ball brought up the fact that the OTA had never kept up any of the things that they were asked to be done in the 2022 resolution, and the city attorney just tried to deflect that and gloss over it. And so we need to realize that that's still the same kind of crap we're going to be dealing with, and let's deal with it properly.
That's right.
Debbie Stoltzman will follow me.
Hi, Amy Serrano, Ward 5. Again, thank you for that vote. 9-0 on that, rejecting that resolution to partner with the OTA. And this moratorium resolution or ordinance, whatever it's going to turn into be, is really important. Because again, from the emails that we have from the city staff, you have to be really careful about who you're listening to and how you're getting your information. Because I'm going to tell you, in all honesty, not to make anybody feel bad, you're not getting the truth from a lot of your city staff. And I have here a draft of a map that's been going back and forth between your city staff gleefully. The 500-acre industrial site shown on Hog Creek.
Please stick to the topic that's at hand, and that would be.
It is. It's a mega project, and this is why we need an ordinance. We need an ordinance that protects the city against these mega projects. We need an ordinance that protects our city against pollution, against flooding and the stormwater. And we need the council to be really careful about the information they're getting from staff and realizing that these plans have been in place for mega projects and the turnpikes that the staff have known about for over 2 years. And so I applaud Michael Nash for putting together this ordinance on the moratorium, a big project for permitting, and I hope that your committee can move it through the process and we can get some more robust protections in place, because developers and the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority are going to keep coming back at us because, again, we are the only city and municipality in 77 years that had the guts to say no. And so I applaud you for that, and I hope that this resolution and ordinance can come to fruition. Thank you.
I accidentally skipped over Tiffany Stevens.
Hi, Tiffany Stevens, Ward 5. I wanted to just make a comment that my husband was watching online. He said there's over 300 people that were watching tonight. And so I wanted to just kind of let you know that there are a lot of people, not just the people that showed up here. And I thank you for letting us speak and for just listening and for reading my long emails. But when OTA comes back and tries to fight you on what you're doing, I mean, I just wanted to read this Turnpike Enabling Act and it, OS 691716B, some people have mentioned it, but all counties, municipalities, and other political subdivisions and all public agencies and commissions of the state of Oklahoma, and it says notwithstanding any contrary provision of law, so despite other laws, are hereby authorized and empowered to lease, lend, grant, or convey to the authority at its request upon such terms and conditions as the proper authorities such as counties, municipalities, other political subdivisions of public agencies and commissions of the state may deem reasonable and fair any real property which may be necessary or convenient to the effectuation of the authorized purposes of the authority, including public roads and other real property already devoted to public use. So this law basically says that they have to work with us, and that notwithstanding, despite any other provisions of law. And so they still have to follow our laws. And so I think passing this, ordinances that are more strict for mega projects is a great idea. And I just want to thank you for everything you're doing. I've been really astonished by the amount of corruption I have seen uncovered by the OTA, and I'm very sad to see that in my home state. And I meant what I said when I said I think good people like you is what we need to fight corruption in our government. So thank you.
Debbie Staltzman, still here? Okay. Cynthia Rogers? Maybe you will follow Cynthia.
Cynthia Rogers, Ward 4 still. I really applaud this this action. I wish we knew about this 2 years ago, so we could have actually been more ahead of this. The public, city council. I hope as we think about stormwater and stormwater runoff, my number one thing is we look at rate of flow, but we don't look at volume of runoff, and volume really matters. So that's on my wish list. I approve this, and I also approve the delay, getting it right, going through process, dotting our I's, crossing our T's. Also getting more input from our now well-informed citizens about construction projects, OTA, that sort of thing. Thank you.
Cheryl Hoggett, you will follow me.
Hi, my name is Laura Ward 2. So there's the whole thing about planting a tree when it's the best time, 10 years ago, but today is the next best time. So with this, like Cynthia was saying, that 2 years ago, we could have started this up, but now is a great time also. So this is exciting, and I think it's going to be a good thing. Also, if you feel like there's a trap, there's a trap. That's it.
You will follow Cheryl.
Lake Thunderbird was Cheryl Hoggett, Ward 5. Lake Thunderbird was designated as a sensitive water supply by the state of Oklahoma in 2002. Specific concerns were related to the excessive nutrient were total phosphorus, total nitrogen, dissolved oxygen, chlorophyll A, and turbidity. After 22 years, we're still on that list. Over the next decade, water quality continued to worsen. In 2010, Lake Thunderbird was placed on ODEQ's 303D list of impaired water bodies. Then we were, the DEQ established a total minimum daily load for nutrients and turbidity and the dissolved oxygen. Their ultimate recommendation was that the watershed control, their ultimate recommendation was that the watershed specific controls and the best management practices be chosen and put in use. This will be one of our watershed-specific controls. So I think it's time that we do something about it. I'm not saying that the city of Norman has not been doing the job to get off these lists or clean up our lakes or whatever, because I don't even know what the average amount of time it takes to do that. But I do know when you have a fire, you don't add fuel to it. So we don't need to be adding fuel without protection from any mega project.
I got up off the floor again. Doing good. I'm Pam Post, and y'all still know I'm from Ward 5. I've recently been told that decisions shouldn't be a tally of yeses and nos, but the understanding of why a person wants you to vote a certain way, and I agree with that ideology. To me, this method allows you to make an informed and unbiased decision, allowing yourself to understand their motivation. Their motivations will lead you through to a thorough and complete thought process. I am thrilled with how you all voted and handled tonight and that you all listened. I am amazed at the work that you all did. Sometimes in life comes the time to step back, take a moment, look around, and change the course of action. I have read this totally new resolution and said, wow, there are council members who realize that for Norman to move forward while protecting itself from outside predators, there is a need for change. The moratorium proposed in this resolution allows council to take that much-needed step back. Development will happen, but it needs to be done using the best practices available. This resolution gives council the time to look around and find the best possible means, and then the opportunity to implement the necessary changes that will allow the best growth in Norman. Council members, I am encouraged that you are looking at this resolution enough to form a study committee. A thorough look at the proposal will give you the basis for improving city ordinances. Ordinances not based on the emotions of people. Ordinances not based on the demands of special interests. Ordinances not based on a tally sheet of yes or no. Ordinances that are based on facts and what is best for Norman and its citizens. You have been elected for that reason. And I want you to know that as you all prepare these ordinances, and as Rob Norman has said, they're going to get attacked at the Capitol, that myself and Randy Carter are the two lead people who go to the Capitol and talk to our legislators. And as you prepare these ordinances, we're going to take them, and with the backing of the information given to us by Amy Serrato, Kelly Wilson, Tassie Hirschfeld, and everybody else in Oklahoma for responsible transportation, we're going to make sure that your ordinances, to the best of our ability, will stand up and pass muster with our state and the state laws and everything. So thank you so much for going this direction. We appreciate your help.
Leslie Noble will follow.
I'll be very brief. It's late, we're tired. Thank you very much for respecting our voices and making, in my opinion, the best decision that's been made all year.
Regarding the other resolution, I think it's a brilliant idea. I absolutely support it, and I also support your decision to take your time and make sure that it's right. So in that context, I will encourage you also to consider that part of what is driving the OTA's ferocious attack on Norman is the rapid appreciation of our real estate, especially in Ward 5. That people's trouble finding housing is a supply and demand issue, and there are developers who want to be able to maximize that appreciation by grabbing the land themselves. And so if they can't do it in a big mega project, they will very likely continue to look for ways to do it in 1,000 smaller projects. And so I would encourage you to protect people's homes, their farms, their home equity, and the investment that they've already made in their properties as part of this process. Thank you.
Leslie Noble, Ward 3. I am in favor of the moratorium, and as someone who lives in Ward 3, I am personally most concerned about the 10-mile flats. And I hope that there can be some more work done on understanding how, if there's more development in that area, how it might cause flooding. Thank you.
Jesse Matlock. Paul Wilson, Ward 5.
Jesse Matlock, Ward 5. I really want to thank you all for supporting the democratic process, for listening to your constituents. Brought a little bit of faith back in my city leaders. I'll keep it brief as well. I do support the forward thinking that is looking at what major projects might bring to our community and how they can affect it and how they influence it. So I appreciate that resolution and also taking the time to think about it. Thank you.
Oh, it's been a minute. Poe Wilson, Ward 1. I want to thank you guys for voting against the OTA earlier. Even though it won't even affect me at all, I am definitely against it. Now, this moratorium is a great idea. I read the resolution that was on the amended agenda packet online, and I agreed with almost every single bit of it that I read. There are some other moratoriums that I've brought before that I think that we could actually look into around housing, but I definitely support you guys postponing this to get it right. So, thank you guys.
I'll yield my time.
Okay, Stephen Ellis.
Steve Ellis, Ward 4. I hate to be the parliamentary geek, but I'm a little bit unclear on what the motion is on the floor right now. In Robert's rules, there are sort of two kinds of postponement motions. One is basically tabling a resolution, which means that the council doesn't intend to act on it. That's postponement without a date certain. Otherwise, you can do postponement on date certain, which guarantees that something will happen. I want to suggest that maybe this can be done via amendment, that the council either postpone or amend the resolution or amend the motion on the floor to turn it into a postponement with a date certain, or that you amend the motion on the floor in order to turn it into an amendment of this resolution that basically puts it in a broader context that says the city council is looking for an ordinance that does something along these lines. We don't have the ordinance yet, but this is the kind of thing we're looking for, because that actually commits you to doing something rather than potentially walking away from it. Second point, since I have a second. I love this resolution. I think the city does need to think about large projects that have high potential to impact what's going on in the city. But I think we should also consider the possibility that there are projects that impact the city in very important ways just because of their large fiscal impact. So I think you should probably add to the list of criteria that you have to meet 3 to count as a large policy or a large development. What's the terminology there? Anyway, that you add to that list to include a sufficiently large fiscal impact, and that you include in the sort of solutions part of this ordinance that you're thinking about fiscal impact statements for those large kinds of issues, because I think that would be really revealing. One of the things that I think is interesting about the OTA thing, but I think other policies that happen in Norman, is that they're pretty narrowly tailored to benefit one relatively well-to-do community already. And as my council member, Helen Grant, noted before, a lot of these things are actually interrelated, right? There are a lot of policies that get adopted in Norman that happen for a certain kind of reason. If we're gonna think about how to do better policy, I think you guys need to get something that's an actual commitment tonight rather than just tabling this thing. And once you get the commitment, you'll have some idea of what you need to talk about if you sort of go the resolution route. So that's my suggestion.
Luigi Palvani.
Hello, Luigi Palvani, Ward 4. We took a stance, we took a great stance. City Council stood with the people of Norman rather than developer for once, and we have a chance to take a step further. Stop big projects. Stop this grab of the land, making things worse for everyone but whoever is building those monstrosities around town. I would say that you can approve this today and make it better tomorrow. I don't know what's the best process to go about things, but I would love to see another stake being put in the ground tonight. Thank you.
Adrian Gautier.
My name is Adrienne Gauthier, and I'm in Ward 4, and I'm also representing the Red Earth Creek Sierra Club, and that's our chair back there, Heather sees me, but she didn't sign up in time to talk. So thank you for your vote, for, I can't remember the positive and negative, but you did the right thing. So, and also thank you for postponing this resolution. We are very excited about it, and we appreciate Nash for bringing it up. We just found out about it this afternoon, but what we do know is that passing this resolution 38 is definitely in the best interest of Norman. So after it all gets fleshed out, we'll be encouraging you to all vote yes for it. Norman needs strong ordinances for any large developments, especially those projects in our floodplains and on the near and on or near our already impaired streams and creeks. The DEQ has classified quite a few streams and creeks as impaired, and we need to protect those. We also want to make sure that developers are not banking on additional highways and corridors to literally pave the way for their mega projects. We are just finding out today that some projects near Lake Thunderbird are already in the planning stages. This is nuts. The Sierra Club cannot stress enough how important it is to protect our drinking water and our watershed. We strongly support a temporary moratorium on permits for any mega development that might compromise this. We also strongly support the city to strengthen its stormwater and floodplain ordinances. Also, the Sierra Club also has a presence like PIKE at the Capitol during legislative session, and we will have your back there. In closing, we need this resolution to protect our citizens, watersheds, and land from unnecessary projects. Please vote yes, and please continue to work hard on this, and I really appreciate y'all's service to Norman. I feel like this is practically a volunteer job, and I know it's hard to fight the good fight, but y'all did that tonight. Thank you.
No. Not yet. We're not to miscellaneous discussion. Evan, you'll follow Cheryl Ann.
Charlene Denso, Wards 4 and 6. I want to just, again, implore you to really think hard about every single large project that is presented to council. It is, I come from a very diverse, very overpopulated place, and recently was traveling back there, and have found that citizens quite a few years ago banded together and kept super projects from going in places that I enjoyed as a child. Wooded areas that are now on the National Register of places to go and be on Staten Island, New York. So if we get it right here, it will be very impactful to generations if we can keep Norman's green spaces green and our waters clean and our air less polluted by whatever industry is coming down the pike. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, I love innovative democracy, and this is innovative democracy.
How'd you get to speak 3 times, pick up on me?
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly clarify the parliamentary procedure question Mr. Ellis posed. It's my understanding that a resolution doesn't require a date certain, that's only an ordinance. Is that correct?
Well, not necessarily. Any item, nothing requires a date certain, okay, regardless of the type of item. He is correct in that a motion to postpone without a date certain can be seen as just a motion to reject. It dies at that point. But you also want to make sure you give your, I understand why you didn't do a date certain because you don't know how long it's going to take to get all this done. So that's another, if you do a date certain and you're not ready yet, it still has to come back to that agenda because you postponed it to that date.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. I bring this up because, you know, in brief conversation earlier, I let Councilmember Nash know that the postponement might be coming, and so I'm making this motion in good faith. I'm committed to actually seeing this through, and so I'm on the record letting everybody know that this is done in good faith. Thank you.
I think when we were discussing that, we had discussed that we go to the CPTC, and not necessarily, it depends on what the chair wants to do with that, is the next time that he hears it, but that I would assume would be quick. Councilmember Ball.
I'm also in favor of postponing this. I'm not the biggest fan, having read the ordinance. I think having read the resolution, I think any resolution that automatically prohibits every and any project is too broad. I think we could be limiting ourselves on attracting who knows what to the city. But from July, having this go until July 1st, 2025, or until the enactment of a new ordinance, if we want an ordinance, then I say we go straight to the ordinance. I don't think we should waste our time with a resolution. But yeah, that's where I'm at. I just think it's overbroad. I think it does need some work, and we're willing to work on it and see what we can make happen. So, amen.
Councilmember Nash.
Clarify 2 points. One is that it's not a moratorium on all building permits, just projects that are gigantic in scale, meeting these criteria, 3 of these criteria. Second is that nobody needs to worry that I'm going to let this council forget about this ordinance and this resolution. That's it.
Councilmember Holmes.
Thank you, and I plan to support the postponement as well, but as chair of the CPTC committee, the Community Pike and Transportation Committee, I think it's an idea worth exploring, as many of you have noted. The council agrees, and definitely willing to take it up in our next meeting, which would be September 26th at 4 p.m. And in that meeting, we can hash out whether it's a resolution, an ordinance. We can give staff a little more time to research any legal issues. We can discuss those, hash those out. Whatever other, anytime we write an ordinance or resolution, I've seen it many times where we went over it and thought we had it correct, and then we pass it, and then, it's enacted, and then something comes up that we didn't think of, and it's like, oh, well, that was an unintended consequence of that. And so I think it'd be good for us to start that conversation and hash those details out, so that if we do end up passing an ordinance that is, like others have mentioned, has actual, I don't know about teeth behind it, but that it has substance behind it, that it really would mean something. So, yeah, I commit to put that on the agenda for the 26th at our next meeting, and see where it goes from there.
So I don't need to worry about that. Other comments from that? That's a member of the Oh, okay, I just saw the answer.
It was asleep.
It was asleep. Okay, the motion on the floor is to postpone the resolution. Council members, you can cast your vote. Boy,
All votes have been cast and the motion to postpone the resolution passes unanimously.
Okay,